Before we
I
start, let me give the instructions, especially with regard to the time. So everybody, since I think there are 15, right? Janet?
Yes, ma'am. We have 15.
15. All are present.
Ma'am, I'll have to check that, ma'am.
Then we'll do one thing. We'll each presenter will just allot 5 + 2 minutes. Okay. So 5 minutes will be for the presentation and 2 minutes will be the interaction. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I
Okay
shall.
then.
Okay. I shall call upon Vedika Kohli first.
Sorry, ma'am. May I start, ma'am, with it? Good morning, everyone. I'm Vedika Kohli, a BA second year student from MCM DAV College, Chandigarh. Today, I'll be just sharing the screen with you all. Yeah, so the topic for my presentation is Transforming the Academy, Inventing a Union Between Disability Studies, Crip Theory, and Academic Pedagogy. So today when we talk about disability studies, Crip Theory, and academic pedagogy, I would like to start upon my presentation by a famous hook point, which says transforming academic institutions requires a shift from fixing students with disabilities to transforming the institutions themselves. So the paper talks about the concept of integrating disability studies into the academic mainstream, as it has been also highlighted by the Indian government this year with the implementation of a new education policy. So it is important to integrate disability studies and Crip theory into academic pedagogy because it fosters inclusivity, accessibility, and social justice. Through the challenges of ableism, rethinking normalcy, and fostering resilience and resistance, such framework empowers students with disabilities, enhance critical thinking, and prepare students for an inclusive society. The paper highlights the importance of disability studies and Crip theory into transforming academic mainstream and creating a more just and equitable learning environment. So when we talk about disability studies, what basically is disability studies comes the first question into our mind. So disability studies is an interdisciplinary field that examines the social, political, cultural, and economic factors surrounding disability. Now, unlike the traditional approaches that focuses solely on the medical or biological aspects of disability, which are also the two models of disability, disability studies solely emphasizes the lived experience of disabled individuals and challenges that they face due to societal norms which have been created by the society. So, now, when disabilities studies came into being, the disability studies emerged in the late 20th century as scholars, activists, and policymakers recognized the need for a broader understanding of disability beyond mere diagnosis or treatment. Key scholars and activists such as Michelle Oliver and Tom Shakespeare helped shape the field by advocating for a shift from purely medical perspective towards a more socially constructed and understanding of disability. Now, as I said, that there are two models of there are two models of disability. First, social; second, medical. This picture solely tells us about how medical model is, that it only focuses on the individual, whereas the social model takes into consideration the society, the sort of inaccessible information or communication there is prejudice, there is stereotype, and there is discrimination, and a lot more. So now when I talk about intersectionality and disability, so intersectionality is a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw and is a crucial in disability studies. It recognizes that disability does not exist in isolation but intersects with other aspects of identity such as race, gender, sexuality, class, and nationality. And then I talk about Crip theory. So what basically is Crip theory? Now, Crip theory is a critical framework that emerges from disability studies and queer theory, challenging normative understanding of ability and the social construction of disability. So this was a term coined by Robert McCure in Crip theory, cultural signs of queerness and disability. Crip is a short term for cripple with disability activism. Like queer theory, Crip theory resists rigid identity categories and instead emphasizes fluidity, performity, and intersectionality. Now, the main focus of my paper is on integrating it into higher education system. So now there are two types of pedagogies which we talk about. One is traditional, second is inclusive. Traditional is just like it has been prevalent since ages, which is teacher and student learning, which is very easy for people who are not differently abled, as we say. Um, but now there is another kind of pedagogy, which is inclusive pedagogy, which is also why we say that it should be inculcated into higher education system is because it is also taking into consideration it also takes into consideration the problems of differently abled people and gives them a equitable environment for learning. Now, this type of education system emphasizes on the student-centered learning. There is these are tailored to diverse learners. There are group discussion and project-based learning, which are like accessible to everyone. Then one of the most prevalent uh, topic which we find for this is universal design for learning, which is based on three core principles. Multiple means of engagement, which provides ways to motivate and involve students, such as incorporating interactive activities and real world applications. Second is multiple means of representation as to how they can represent their ideas, such as it includes visual, auditory, and kinesthetic methods. Then there is a method of multiple means of action and expression. So this allows students to demonstrate their understanding in diverse ways, such as written reports, presentations, or creative projects. Now, how can the faculty play a crucial role in accessibility? We can adopt inclusive teaching strategies. For example, we can use accessible of digital resources. We can design flexible assessment to accommodate diverse learners, as it was also talked about earlier by the professors. Then the second way forward could be providing reasonable accommodations. Then there is creating a supportive classroom environment, which is by fostering an inclusive culture, encouraging group discussions, and being receptive to student needs. Now we talk about, there were few also, while I was writing the research paper, I went through few case studies, and there were also few challenges which people faced, which is physical barrier, that many educational institutions have physical barrier that hinder accessibility, such as there are inadequate ramps, there is inaccessible classrooms, there are no lift facilities for those people. Then there is curriculum design, which we can talk about, which is that curriculum often fails to incorporate diverse learning needs, neglecting to provide accommodations such as audio descriptions, closed captions, or braille materials. Then we talk about lack of policy enforcement. Now, there is inadequate policy framework. Many educational institutions lack comprehensive policies and procedures to address disability-related issues. There's lack of accountability as well. Now, the absence of accountability mechanisms ensures that policies are not effectively implemented, leaving disabled individuals without inadequate support. So now there is I've provided a solution for this as well. Now, we talk about policy and institutional reform for disability inclusion in higher education. Current challenges, which everyone is aware also, and we see around as well, that there is lack of awareness among faculty about disability rights and accommodations. Not everyone is aware about it. Second, there is insufficient training on inclusive pedagogies and assistive technologies. Third, there is bias in assessment methods that disadvantage students with disabilities. Now, what we can, the proposed reforms are mandatory disability training. The faculty can be trained for it. There can be programs to raise awareness about universal design for learning and assistive technologies. We can collaborate with disability experts. And then we can also provide incentive for inclusive learning. The major thing which we can do for this is that incorporate accessibility criteria, mandating that accreditation bodies and assess institution disability inclusion. Also, one of the major factor we can do is that we can have student advocacy and participatory policy making. Like students who are they are differently disabled, they can come up and form policies, or they can form council that includes students with disabilities to advise policy reforms. There can be leadership trainings providing resources and training to empower students to advocate for their rights. And third, there can be collaboration with institutional leaders, creating formal channels for students representing in decision making bodies. Now, the findings of the research paper are: intersectional approach. The Union of Disability Studies, Crip Theory, and Academic Pedagogy can create innovative pedagogical approaches that challenge dominant narratives and promote accessibility and inclusivity. We can also challenge ableism. There can be pedagogical innovations such as universal design for learning, and inclusive environment can be created to create more accessible and engaging learning. Then, what are the future directions or the way forward? We can have interdisciplinary research collaborations. Future research should focus on interdisciplinary collaboration between disability studies, Crip theory, and academic mainstream, exploring innovative teaching methods and assessment strategies. There can be inclusive curriculum development. The curriculum can be developed as such that there is which can help to promote critical thinking and social justice. Then there can be accessibility and accommodations. Future research should also focus on developing innovative accessibility solutions and accommodation, promoting inclusive learning and environment, and challenging ableism. Now, I would like to conclude my paper by saying that by embracing disability studies and Crip theory, the academy can move beyond a superficial commitment to inclusion and create a truly transformative learning environment. A Crip pedagogy that prioritizes difference, interdependence, and social justice has the potential to reshape academic practices and foster more equitable and intellectually vibrant future. Integrating disability studies and Crip theory into academic pedagogy is imperative for dismantling ableist structures in higher education. And by embracing inclusive teaching methodologies, institutional reforms, and participatory learning models, the academy can transform into a more equitable space for all learners and educators. And the paper serves as a call to action for educators to embark upon this transformative journey towards a Crip theory.
Yes, Vedika, that was a very in detail explanation about the Crip theory and the academic pedagogy. And I have a question, especially with regard to the script theory. Can you just tell me how the script theory would be applicable or helpful for the persons with disability, especially in higher education system?
Ma'am, this Crip theory, which is the short word for cripple, it can be very accessible to students, because when we talk about Crip theory in detail, we also, like I said, I proposed the solutions in my paper as well, that we can accommodate infrastructure like that. We can give them, provide facilities of ramps. Now that being a college student, I myself see in few colleges that ramp facility is not there. There are no lifts. I, as an individual, I have a teacher who is differently abled. So we see their problems in person every day. I had a conversation with that teacher as well. I conducted a short survey as well with the people. So
Good.
now that I see students in my college also, most of them don't have hostel facility for that, because there's a lot of problem with it. So they stay in PGs and all to with a person like that. Being now that I'm in second year, in first year, in my own class, I had a student who was blind, not usually fully impaired, but partially impaired. So the problem is that in a class of 150 students, as we see, all of them are pretty well. They are, by God's grace, they're all well. But if one odd one of us is there, odd one of out, then the person also feels, as what I have experienced myself, the person feels shyness. The person is not able to talk clearly. There are no technologies in higher education system, especially for those children. And the schools have developed a lot. There is a lot of technology, there are smart boards and all, but in colleges we still see that they are not there. In my own college, we don't see it at all the places. They are there, but only in few classes. They're not there in every class. So we have a traditional methodology of teaching with books and all. But for those students, because I saw that girl myself in my class, and it's a live experiences which I have had, that the girl used to bring her own device to type, which they use for that matter. Now, the problem is that the child can get a person who can help her out in her examinations.
Okay.
But now we talk about incorporating disability studies. Not everyone is aware about it. I myself wasn't aware about it until and unless I made a research out of, I wrote a research paper for this topic. The problem is that there's lack of awareness. These people can get a person who can write a paper for them, but these people cannot, at every point, we cannot get a person who can help us out every time. We do not have offices like that that are only for disabled or differently abled people. You still have to walk around with the world. You have to be that much capable enough that you can do that. So I think that when we inculcate all of this into higher education system, and now that we say that in India, earlier this caste system was very prevalent, as we say, and we used to have biases on that. But now, if we have come onto that term that we do not have those much biases today, if we say, so I think that this should be given equal opportunity to the differently abled people also, that they can come sit with us, study, so that we also get to know their adoptive methods and they also get to know ours. So there is no uh, unbiasedness, or there's no partiality for that, and the child feels a safe environment wherein they can come and they can explore the various fields as we do. So yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Good, Vedika. That's a really good observation. May I call upon the next paper presenter, Janvi? Can you?
Yes, ma'am. To Nilesh Verma and Mr. Shubhi Gupta on the topic of implementation of CRPD in India, legal and policy perspective on ensuring accessible education. I request Dr. Nilesh Gupta to present. Ma'am, shall we move on to the next presenter?
Yes. More.
Dinesh Kumar Mishra on the topic of inclusive policy for all, achieving disability rights through social change and legal reform.
Yes, ma'am, I'm present. Oh,
Okay.
just give me a second, ma'am. Whether my screen is visible or not.
Yes, it's visible. You can proceed.
So, very good afternoon, respected ma'am, and all the participants who are present here. My name is Dinesh Kumar Mishra. I am a teaching research associate at Gujarat National Law University, Gandhinagar. My title of my research paper presentator is Inclusive Policies for All, Achieving Disability Rights Through Social Change and Legal Reforms. The first and foremost thing which is very important for me, why I have chosen this title, the reason is when we talk about the legal reforms, our concern and our all thought goes towards the acts, laws, rules, which is being made by different organizations. If we talk about internationally, if we talk about even globally, the different nations making the different acts. But what about the implementation at societies? Whether the implementation of all those acts is being truly implemented in the society? Because what I personally feel, the major barriers are coming from the societies, not from the acts. Acts are already there. They are providing. If we talk about India is there. When we talk about the Indian Constitution, there is discrimination policies even in articles of our Indian Constitution. But whether that articles are enough or not, the first question. And there is the Disabilities Act, provision of Disabilities Act also there, and which is providing benefit to the especially abled people, if I can say. But again, the barriers which are falling at the marginalized level, I can say, if we go into the villages, if we go into the not even villages, even in metropolitan areas, if I see, if people are coming different kind of disabilities, they are not getting the equate opportunity. If someone cannot hear, he should not be debarred from getting the job opportunity of which there is no need of hearing. Like yesterday I visited Decathlon. I found that there are 2 to 3 people. That is like I am talking just about one Decathlon shop which is situated in Gandhinagar. There are 3 people working as their store manager. And I personally found that it is a great initiative, and they're unable to speak, but they're able to do work perfectly. I asked them like whether these people are efficient in doing working or not. So they said they work brilliantly. So this should be implemented, I think so, at a very societal, at a marginalized level, at a remote niche of a beyond any geographical areas. So that's why I chosen this topic. Like when I talk about the legal reforms, I also talk about the social changes is also required. And where when I talk about social changes, each individual of this society contribute in this. So moving ahead, so again, there is 2 models when we talk about this the disability people, especially able people. One is medical model and other one is social model. So by the medical model, we can turn someone's disability into the percentage, like whether this person is 1% disabled, 2% of disabled, and accordingly that person is being decided like which works benefit for that. But when we talk about the societal model completely bans him, like they create a 100% barriers, like he should not get any kind of opportunity, bullying happen and everything happens. So our major concern should be societal model. How can we change this societal model rather focusing like medical model already doing brilliant work. So now the time is come to like focus more on social model. Landmark legislation, since I have only 10 minutes, so I'll be focusing on major things. And already I have mentioned everything in my research paper. So if I talk about the landmark legislation, there are 2 landmark legislation in India also there. But when we refer in India also, we majorly referred on the American with Disabilities Act. And the second one is United Nations Conventions on the Children Rights of Person with Disabilities. And when we talk about the historical context of disability rights, so we can divide it into 3 parts: early historical perception, what the people were thinking, what the societal people were thinking, and how they used to treat the disability people. In historical perception, we can say that is being termed as like it is created by only God, and they used to not believe on the medical things, that it could be region of something else, like during their when some person have born, say, some person have certain kind of disability since the birth, they used to think this is done by God, and they used to not think in the way like this could have something mismanagement, or we can say like lack of careness during their pregnancy, or lack of awareness in the way we can say. And the second one is the rise of medical model. The rise of medical model, like it is started by late 19th and early 20th century, and where it has been like contributed more towards these people, and from here only they started getting like if there are certain minor issues of disabilities, this could be cure on the medical on the medicines. And if it is not also like not curable, if certain things are on genetic basis, then also they got at least that much of advantages, where like if their family are educated, if their parents and every societal members are educated, they used to not discriminate on the basis that this is done by God. They used to understand that this can be issue of medical things, and this if there is curable also, they used to move forward for the medical medicines process. And the shift is social model of society, and this is how the like from the societal perspective to the medical model is being shifted. when I talk about the American with Disabilities Act ADA, which it talks about majorly on four bases. First one is employment. It like this act basically worked on like creating job opportunities for the people who are especially able. The second thing in American with Disability Act, although in India also we are having like special kind of provision, special kind of we can say reservation for the especially able people in public services. The we have in fact we have adopted from the American with Disabilities Act only. And the third one is public accommodation, in restaurant, hotels, and retail establishment. Now I have given the example of Decathlon. So everything is been mentioned in the American with Disabilities Act. Fourth one is the telecommunication. Relay services allow individuals with hearing and speech disabilities to communicate over the phone. And the disability rights movement, advocacy, and activism. Now, finally, these people and NGOs, like I can see the one of the example where I am presenting the paper. It is a NGO, I can say, like taken the initiative where these people are getting educated by some of the legal scholars, some of the social scholars. So this is also part of this rights movements, advocacy, and activism. And challenges, to what are the challenges are there, disability as diversity, not deficit. The social model of disability popularized by disability activists in the late 20th century refined disability not as an individual defect but as the result of societal barriers. I already mentioned this. If I am especially abled person, this cannot be my like individual barrier. I cannot say like I will how the society is promoting me. If I appraise a person, like whether he is especially able or not, if I am able to motivate him, he will be doing good. And same thing goes with the especially able people. So if we from the beginning only, if we say that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, so ultimately we cannot say the result will come in the positive sense. So it happens in the first barrier which I found is this: disability as diversity, not deficit. And second one is the role of media in shaping attitude. The media plays a significant role in shaping public perception of disability. Historically, people with disability were portrayed in the media as objects of pity, inspiration, or tragedy. So now it is being changed. Now I can at least feel like at least 10 to 15% are sympathizing, are having empathy. Like if we are not having sympathy also, at least we should have empathy towards them. At least from our part, we should be able to help them out. And the third barrier which I feel is inclusive design and universal accessibility. In starting my paper, I said there is no inclusiveness. I talk about the acts, but we cannot say that implemented the said act will be implemented at the par level, at the very remoteness of places. So this is also one kind of barrier. And lastly, and the next one is inadequate enforcement. Again, the implementing mechanism is little slow. What I feel that, and economic inequality. The people who are not having the we discuss about the poverties. We discuss about in India only. If we talk about like 90% of persons are like generally do taking the rations. So if I feel like 80 lakhs of 80 lakh crores of people are getting rations from the government. So we cannot say like they will be in a place where they can avail the medicines, or we can say that they will be able to create that kind of uh, place where their treatment or their careness will be taken. So this is also one problem. And third is attitude stigma. Like this is the societal problem, and deep rooted societal prejudice and stereotypes about disability often result in exclusion and discrimination. So, and last one is physical and infrastructural barrier. In my earlier paper presentation, she was talking about like in school and colleges. I was in Silvassa. So I found that we lot of in Indian politics, we talk about this state model is best, this state model is best. But what I personally I can suggest is like when I went to Silvassa's government school, I found that every kind of care is taken about the especially able person. They were having like those kind of chairs, stairs, and everything. And that too in government school. I literally got impressed. So we should take a inspiration from that small place also. Recommendation for achieving full inclusion is that it is essential to strengthen enforcement of existing laws like the ADA and CRPD, ensuring compliance across sector. So it doesn't matter like whether someone is living at a rural place or metropolitan areas. That should be like equity should be found, like promoted in all the areas, promoting disability awareness through education and public campaign, and challenges stereotypes and reduce stigma. So what I feel like in this also the problem is that people just put the posters on some wall and they think that the promotion is being done. So this should not be the way the government, or in fact I can say the NGOs, and in fact I can say the law students also, in fact in that they should take the initiative and they should make a committee and they should make a team and go on village to village basis and take one village in a week or something like that. So at least aware the people of that villages, and reasonable accommodation in workplaces and educational setting must be started practice, ensuring equal opportunities. So again, at one or two places, if it is satisfying, that doesn't matter. At whole level it is satisfied. So it is important to be like equity here also is essential. And that's it from my side. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, Dinesh sir, it was indeed a very good presentation on the social change and the legal reforms to be brought. I had a question, especially regarding the model which you suggested, that is a social model. Does the social model also speaks about creating inclusivity in employment for the people with disability?
Yes, ma'am. Social model it creates, ma'am. Like people should be. When I talk about the diversity, it also includes the people with especially able, ma'am.
Okay, how about providing equal opportunity in employment?
Providing
Because
equal opportunity means like if someone is really like he is able, he should not be discriminated on the just basis he is especially able. I have seen people like in one of the university, I cannot take the name. He came for the interview of assistant professor. The institute, and it is a very great university, ma'am. In fact, I can say in India only. It is a great university. I was the student of that university, and the said assistant professor is being rejected on the just basis he was having polio. So it should not be there, ma'am. So
yes,
if someone has eligibility, he should get the opportunity, and then he should be marked on the just basis.
yes, true, true. Thank you, Dinesh.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jamni, we'll move on to the next paper presenter.
Mubarak Khan from Assistant Professor of IFIM Law School, Bengaluru, and Mr. Abdul Asik Mubarak. On the topic, breaking barriers, advancing the rights of people with disabilities to access knowledge through inclusive education. Ma'am, session?
Yeah, we'll move on to the next speaker.
Yes, ma'am. K. Gopika and Nirvitri Prasanna on enhancing digital accessibility in education through assistive technologies for disabled persons. K. Gopika.
Ma'am, can I speak for a moment? Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am, please.
I think according to the schedule, my name was there after Mr. Mubarak. So if possible, can I present now?
Yes, Amika, you can present.
Okay. In that case, I'd request you to just allow me to join through another device so that I can present my paper.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, sure.
Okay. I'll just send the request. I've sent the request, ma'am. Okay. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Okay, just let me start presenting. Just a second while I share my screen. Ma'am, is my presentation visible to you?
Yes, yes, Omika, it is.
Good morning, everyone. I am Shomika Roy. I am presently acting as Assistant Professor in the School of Law, Sister Nivedita University. And today I will be speaking about the access to knowledge for persons with disabilities. And as we know that this is the basis of the webinar. And for this topic, I have gone into a broad view. And just a second. I'll be dealing with the different the categories of problems with special reference to India, the situation that is presently arising in India, and I'll try to cover all the bases that what are the problems, what is the situation in the different countries around us, and globally as well, and what is the way forward. So, if I may begin. The name of my paper, the full name is Access to Knowledge for Persons with Disabilities, Challenges, Policies and Technological Interventions with special reference to India. So before we start, if we see that what are the different laws available to us, firstly, we know that in India, we have the Rights of Persons with Disability Act, which is the RPWD, as well as the Mental Health Care Act, which is the MHCA. And both of these act in collaboration to work for the empowerment of persons with disability in our country. But then in spite of that, we see that there's a gap between the enactment of the different laws as well as the different the implementation of these laws. So if we go into the background, we know that the UNCRPD is there to to work in this regard, and on the basis of that, we have now our own laws to work for this. But in spite of this, there are certain barriers that somewhere down the line, it hinders the access to knowledge for persons with disabilities. So if we study these barriers, we'll see that first of all, there are different physical barriers. What are these physical barriers? Just a second. Ma'am, can I ask you to give me a second, please?
Yes, yes. Make it quick.
I'll just stop sharing for 1 second if you allow me.
Yes, yes.
Please, sorry for this this break. I'll just restart. Yeah, so as I was talking about the different barriers, so first of all, we have the different physical barriers. What are the physical barriers? We have the previous presenters have already talked about the infrastructural problems, the transportational problems, which I think is a big deal. That even if when the schools and colleges they have proper infrastructure to deal with differently able people, but then transportation often does not. So reaching to your school and college can also be an issue. Secondly, we have the social and cultural barriers, like lack of awareness, which I think my previous speaker talked about. How this person went to an interview. He cleared all these problems that can occur from childhood, but then he was rejected on grounds of polio. So what happens here is there is a stigma, there is a discrimination. In spite of all the laws, there is a discrimination that is arising. Then we have different kinds of economic barriers, like, the assistive devices that we will be talking about in this webinar and also elsewhere. They, at many times, we see the costs are extremely high. The costs are extremely high, the availability is less, and in many situations, we find that persons with disabilities, they are often dependent on other relatives and other, near relations who do not want to assist them with all of these things, or are not even in many times able to assist them, right? Next, we have certain technological barriers. So technological barriers are something that we can all understand, that assistive tools, even when they are available, are not always sufficient. There's a huge digital divide, all right? And there are some policy barriers, policy and legal barriers, such as we have policies, but there is a weak implementation, and there is a huge gap in the standard of accessibility. And like many things in our country, there is a lack of monitoring of the accessibility or the availability of these policies to all the different people. Next, we will come to some case studies. So for the case studies, I have taken up a few success stories, as well as some challenges, some places which we can say are not so successful in these applications. So for success stories, I think Finland is the most prevalent, the most talked about success story with regard to persons with disabilities, because their inclusive education system is something I think it can act as a, it can act as an example to everyone. Secondly, we have the Marrakesh Treaty, obviously from 2013. It gives us a lot of input into how we can grow. And we have different other countries like, USA or Canada, how they are growing. We can say that when it comes to developing countries, the development is slow with regard to this also. And one of these examples can be the situation in Nigeria, because in spite of having very robust laws, their application is not up to the mark at all. Next, we will come to the role of technology. Now, if we come to technology, we see that there are different kinds of technology. So when we have assistive technologies, we talk about screen readers, or text to speech tools which automatically transfer your whatever you are going to read. There's braille devices, hearing aids, captioning tools, mobility aids. So all of these are different uh, assistive technologies that help differently able people with regard to different kinds of disabilities, and it helps you in understanding or studying accordingly. Next, you have the digital accessibility. Digitally accessible, when you have certain platforms or certain, in today's world, we cannot we cannot even think of doing anything without access to any digital things, we can say instruments, right? So for persons with disability also, when even if they are conducting a small research or they're going to study for a test, they have to have access to the digital world. So in that case, accessible websites and platforms, different online learning platforms like Coursera, the Khan Academy, Duolingo, these are available to everyone in different modes, so they can always help. We also have ebooks that are self-read, right? Then we have the inclusive design. So this, I think, is the most talked about thing right now, the UDL, or the universal design for learning, and the different categories under that. Then there is artificial intelligence and machine learning also coming up with different adaptive learning technologies that can help in this regard. If we move on, now I would like to make some recommendations which I think are not very out of the table. These are something that are already talked about, but then we cannot put enough enhancement on how much this is required. Firstly, policy and legal frameworks. I think the laws that we have at this moment are not very inadequate. We do have laws, we do have reservations, everything, but there's a huge gap when it comes to what is written in the law and the the applicability, or the how much it is actually being used in our country. So there's this huge big gap between what is required and what is happening and what is actually provided. Even when the government is providing funds, we see that in most of these cases, it is not even reaching the proper place. Next, we have the inclusive education. So the UDL principles, the different things that are available, it has to be made available at every level. and to every person. Like in the previous speeches, we heard about some very good examples of certain schools and colleges that have made these changes, but not all of them could do so, right? So this is one thing. Another is the technological innovations. More and more innovations are required since technology is growing every day. So even for persons with disabilities, the technologies related to that have to grow. Next, we have different social and cultural changes, which I cannot harp on enough, because even in spite of all this, in spite of all the laws and technologies, if the society is not evolving, it is of no use, because in spite of that, there is so much discrimination, in today's world, that yes, it is true that India is definitely a study of, progress. There is changes going on, but not at all levels. So a lot more changes are required at the social and cultural stage. Economic support, different subsidizations are required definitely, and international collaboration. When it comes to the success models around the world, I think we should work with them in order to grow India at that level. So my next slide talks about how India is actually a case study in progress with regard to all of these subheadings. So there is policy and legal frameworks in India, but more is required. There is inclusive education at different stages, but again, more inclusive education, or the curriculum has to be even better. Technology and innovation, again, there is growth, but not enough. Same goes for social and cultural changes, economic support, international collaboration. And last, one thing I felt is not enough harped on is the research and data collection with regard to persons with disability. So research on this is not as much as should be, and more data is required to actually study the situation in our country. The key takeaways from this paper, just a second, is the universal access of the rights of education, or access to knowledge for persons with disabilities. There has to be a multifaceted approach to this. Technology can be a huge tool, and there has to be a collaborative effort if we want to see a big development. So that is it. The next step is obviously research and how we can grow, and then we have a better society, hopefully. So thank you. That is the end to my presentation.
Yes, Ms. Saumika, that was a very detailed presentation about the access to knowledge for persons with disability, especially viewing from the technological and policy aspects. I have a question regarding what is your observation regarding the current Indian policies? I mean, are they sufficient to provide an inclusive platform for the persons with disabilities?
I think the laws are per se not very problematic in our country. The
What do you
laws, when they are
suggest? What
made,
do you suggest?
I suggest that yes, the laws can be better. True. But then I feel that the implementation gap has to first be addressed, because more and more laws are coming up in different social issues. We see that different laws are coming up at all stages, and some are problematic, yes, but mostly they are very good. But then if we don't work on the implementation of these laws, the enforcement, the proper, when the funds are allocated, in spite of that, we see a very, like, a drop is only reaching the required places. Different NGOs, they are trying so hard to come up. Even today we are working in collaboration with this NGO, so they are trying so hard to work in this field, but then they are not able to do so just because they are not getting enough funds,
Mm.
even though the funds are allocated from the government, right? So this, I think, this enforcement and implementation has first got to be looked into before we move on to more robust laws.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true. Thank you, Ms. Saumika. Thank you.
1 minute.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
Just
yes,
to,
Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah.
yes, sir.
Just
Yes,
to
sir.
add over here.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Uh, you do have your own constitution. That itself is a
Yes, sir.
suprema lexus specialis. So based on constitution, you should protect the interests of these people. Look into Article 15, 23, and rest of them. They
Yes,
have
definitely.
outspoken. And as you have rightly pointed out, that there shall be, social, economic, and political justice should be shared to the people who are left out in the society as a whole. That's very important from the point of understanding the law in which we have. I think we have had plenty of legislations in understanding disabled people, country like India. You know the fact that when uh, international agencies they sat together with a view to understand many conventions which were actually adopted locally. Okay, in 2006 we could sign a particular convention. Later on in 2016 we were able to pass a legislation from our own parliament. So that's there. See, rather than just understanding the provisions of law indifferently, you have to look into the objectives of enactment. That's very important. Objectives of a legislation should be made available. That's very important. So you have to understand the contents of the subjective and objective approaches of a particular legislation. So through which you can understand the problems of a disabled country like India. This is one thing. On the other hand, the mindset of the people should be changed. As I have already been made it clear that even at home we treat them indifferently, isn't it? You may say you are a blind, you are deaf and dumb. All these things are there. That you should overcome. I mean, they are also human being. Because of few reasons, I mean to say, biological imbalances, you may be calling them as if disabled, but they are able, as it has been well noted by United Nations. So United Nations has already been coined. They are all actually physically abled. Okay, see, you have a right hand and left hand. Okay, right and left. What is your right over here? So that's you have to balance positive and negative aspects in a given society as such. See, sometimes even society can create law. Similarly, courts can create law. You have to balance laws created by society and then laws created by courts as well. You have to balance on the basis of these factors. This is one thing. On the other hand, as I have already been made it clear, that rather than just criticizing the provisions of law, this and that, there is no law at all, there is no implementation. Who has to implement it? The entire civil society is responsible. I am also responsible, you are also responsible. Why are you blaming a state? You have to blame yourself. Isn't that's very important? Okay, for the purpose of understanding some reservation clause, you can blame. Otherwise, everything is actually shouldered on you because you are not living alone. You are living with many people. So when you are living with many people, you should know how to behave with them. That's very important. You have to respect them. Dignity is actually well noted. So that has to be called and looked into. You have to see them as if your own human being. That's very important from the point of view of understanding this. Okay, pain is actually known to them, isn't it? I don't know anything about that, isn't it? So you have to understand the uh, pleasure and pain theory as it has been well noted by Jeremy Bentham. Perhaps many of the students may have known the jurisprudence itself. You just have a look on even what shall I say, natural law theory, in which it has outspoken. So without morality in any legislation, it would be incomplete. So that's why morality, justice, equity, fairness, and all in all should be made available. So without understanding fairness, justice, or what shall I say, equality, you know the fact that you just look into Article 14 of the Constitution. Like should be treated alike, unlike should not be treated alike. So equality before law and equal protection of law, they should go hand in hand, isn't it? This is one thing I would like to share with you. On the other hand, when you are actually running with equality, fairness shall not be forgotten. Equality and fairness, they should go hand in hand. When you forgotten fairness while you are understanding the concept of equality, it would be incomplete and you'll be totally confused. So therefore you have to understand on the basis of constitutional law and the international law. These are the two eyes of our jurisprudence should be balanced, isn't it? So international is not something you are sitting here to understand. 2020, 2016 Act. It was possible because of the influence of international law. So that's very important. See, most of the people who are sitting in Geneva, they are not actually sleeping somewhere, isn't it? They are all actually researching every day and night to understand the pulse of human being. That's very important. See, protection of human rights are actually well noted at the international level. That is what UNO has been actually working day and night, isn't it? You may be finding a lot of criticisms leveled against the political observations of UNO, but UNO has done a commendable job on socio economic and cultural issues of the people around the globe. So in this way, I appreciate the efforts made by United Nations in understanding even disabled people all over the world as such. This is one thing. And as you have already been known from different dimensions, the laws are actually divided into many perceptions and the ideologies as such. You just look into US centric approach. US centric approach is quite demanding. So they look in different way. Similarly, in some other countries as well. Okay, and understand the Eurocentric approach, European centric approaches, and you just compare with the Asia Afrocentric approaches. So they vary each other. And you know the fact that each state is a supreme in eye of law. It can pass any legislation, amend any legislation, and repeal any legislation. And autonomy has already been given to a state to decide what is to be done or what ought not to be done. So that's very important from the point of understanding these crises as well. Simply, you cannot keep the same problem for a long time. Somewhere you have to sit for a while, understand the people because they have a trust on you. Okay, I respect your truth, please respect my truth. So that is the strength. See, you have to understand, just because of some natural issues, they may be sidelined. You should not sideline them, isn't it? You should treat them as if your own human being. That's very important. Okay, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for giving that constitutional touch. Thank you, Soumita. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tanvi, shall we move on to the next paper presenter?
Yes, ma'am. I call upon Dr. Nilesh Verma and Shubhi Gupta on the topic Implementation of CRPD in India, Legal and Policy Perspective on Ensuring Accessible Education.
Good afternoon to everyone present here. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
yes,
audible. Please proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone present here. I'll be presenting my paper. So, the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disability, CRPD, was adopted by the United Nations in 2006. It represents a significant shift from a welfare-based approach to a right-based approach in addressing disability-related issue. The primary objective of CRPD was to eliminate discrimination and ensure the full participation of persons with disability on all aspects in the society. The presentation will discuss the key provisions of the CRPD, its implementation in India, challenges associated with ensuring the accessible education, and recommendation for strengthening, including educational policy. So now moving on to the key provision of CRPD related issues, CRPD related to the education. The CRPD promote dignity, non-discrimination, and accessibility for persons with disability. Some of its key provisions related to education include Article 5, that all persons with disability are treated equally and are not subjected to the discrimination in any form, including in education. Article 9 emphasizes the importance of accessibility, including physical infrastructure and digital platform to ensure that students with disability can participate fully in the education system. Article 24 highlights the importance of inclusive education, ensuring that persons with disability have equal opportunity in education institution, including the access to appropriate accommodation and support services. Article 33 established the mechanism for national implementation and monitoring of CRPD provision to ensure compliance in education policies and framework. Implementation of CRPD in India legal and policy framework. India has taken significant steps to align its framework with CRPD, particularly in the education sector. The Right of Person with Disability Act 2016 incorporate CRPD principles and mandate inclusive education for children with disability. The new Education Policy 2020 emphasizes inclusive education and need for accessible learning material and infrastructure. The Right to Education Act 2009 guarantee free and compulsory for children with disability, integrating them into mainstream school where possible. Schemes such as Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyam Shiksha Abhiyan focus on providing infrastructure, assistive technology, and teacher training inclusive education. Challenges in ensuring accessible education. Despite these policies, significant challenges remain implementing an inclusive education in India. Infrastructure gap. Many schools lack in accessible classroom, ramp devices, and disability-friendly transport. Teacher training. There is a shortage of trained educator who can effectively teach and support students with disability. Curriculum adaptation. Standard curriculum often do not accommodate the diverse need of students with disability. Lack of awareness. Many parents and educators are unaware of the right of children with disability and available support system. So in India, like there are many students, many teachers, and many people who are unaware that there is an act called CRPD which is implemented, and student or children who are disabled have full right of education. Then they can also get educated. Funding constraint, limited financial resources hinder the effective implementation of inclusive education policy. See, there is lack of awareness, so there is lack of funding also. The people are not getting actual amount of fund or actual amount of money which they should have got to promote CRPD. The best practices in India, like in Kerala, has pioneered in inclusive education by integrating assistive technology and specialized teacher training program. Like in Kerala, they have a special technology and they have trained their teacher to treat student equally like the normal student. Delhi University has introduced Disability Resource Center and assistive services for students with disability. The Sukanya Praksha initiative provide accessible digital library for visually impaired students. Role of civil society and global cooperation. Non-governmental organization and advocacy group plays a crucial role in ensuring the rights of students with disability. Collaboration between government bodies, civil body, and international organization is essential for improving the accessibility and inclusive in education. My recommendations for this is to enhance the implementation of CRPD in India. Education system, the following measures should be taken. Strengthen infrastructure to ensure all schools and universities are accessible. Train teacher to effective support and educate students with disability. Adapt curricula to cater diverse learning needs. Increase public awareness and advocacy for disability right in education. Allocate more financial resources to inclusive education program, leverage technology to create accessible learning material and digital classroom. My closing remark for the same will be, while India has made significant progress in aligning its education policy with CRPD, challenges remains. Stronger implementation efforts, increased awareness, and stakeholder collaboration are needed to ensure accessible education for all. Thank you for your attention. I'm now open to any question or discussions.
Yes, Shubhi, that was well researched on the CRPD. The question is like, in the course of your research, especially on CRPD, Did you find any limitations on this CRPD which it could not cover?
Limitation as in the students are limited to education or any sector, you're asking that, ma'am?
No. See, CRPD, especially you're talking about the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disability, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes.
that we have to view from a global perspective, right? So,
Yes.
so having a convention that actually targets all the state parties and which states that all the state parties, they should be committed for the implementation of the convention, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
from that angle, especially from the angle of implementation, or maybe providing the facilities for the differently able or specially able, did you find any limitations in this particular convention?
Ma'am, I find the limitation that people are still not aware about this act more. Like they're aware that
This is not an
they're.
act, this is a convention.
Sorry,
So
ma'am.
it
The
becomes
convention.
an act only after a state party ratifies it, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
I just find that people are not aware about this convention more. So like the awareness program is less, so everything is limited in that perspective.
uh, I say exactly from an international law point of view, we cannot say that people are not aware of the convention. So people will not be aware. So it is the duty of every state party. So when they say assign or when they ratify, it is an obligation of the state party to have laws.
Yes.
So do we have laws in India?
No, ma'am.
We don't have any laws which is based on the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
Ma'am, particularly like based on this convention, we don't have a particular act related to this.
What's your view on the RPWD? Have you heard of Rights of Person with Disabilities Act
No, ma'am, I haven't heard.
2016 in India?
No, ma'am, I haven't. Sorry.
That's okay, dear. That's okay. So it requires or calls for a more research on this point, and that was a
Yes,
very
ma'am.
good attempt from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Janvi,
Yes, ma'am.
just please call the next paper presenter.
Yes, ma'am. Next would be K. Gopika and Nirvitra Prasann
I
on the
think it should
topic
be
enhance.
Shubha Lakshmi, no?
Ma'am, actually, when we had called them first, they were not available, so now they're back on the meeting.
Okay, so it's Gopika, right?
Yes, ma'am. K. Gopika.
Okay.
On the topic enhancing digital accessibility in education through assistive technology for disabled person.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Today I'm going to take a proper presentation titled Enhancing Digital Accessibility in Education through Assistive Technology for Disabled Person. So moving to the introduction, we all know that education is a fundamental right, but barriers exist for disabled individuals. And digital and assistive technologies help bridge accessibility gaps. And tools such as braille displays and AI solution that transform education. And this paper aim is to discuss AI technology implementation challenges and long-term effects. So moving to the role of assistive technologies in education, which ensures inclusive learning experiences, customize online materials for accessibility, and it supports various disability categories. And assistive technology for visual impair, that is so many assistive technologies are available for visually impaired. First one is screen readers, and second one is braille displays, and speech to text software is also available. And moving to the technologies for hearing impaired, that is closed captions and transcription, that is which is used in YouTube, Zoom meeting, etc. And secondly, sign language avatar is also there for AI powered avatars, translate text to sign language. And third one is text to speech tools, which convert written text to audible content, which support multimedia learning and live discussion. And moving to the technologies for physically disabled persons, First one is e-learning platform, that is Blackboard for remote learning is there, and alternative input devices, that is eye tracking, voice recognition, adaptive keyboards, also available for physically disabled person. And thirdly, AI personal assistant, that is Google Assistant, that is Siri for hand-free learning, which eliminates physical barriers to education. And move to the AI and machine learning in assistive technology, that which enhances usability and personalization. AI driven adaptive learning adjusts to user needs, provides real-time accessibility features like speech to text and alternative tests, and which support cognitive disabilities with intelligent tutoring system. And government initiative, there are so many government initiatives is there. That is, first one is accessible Indian campaigns, that is in 2015. Accessible Indian campaign is there, which is the core object is to digital accessibility. And second one, GIGW compliance, which ensures WCAG 2.0 standard for government websites. And third one, UGC accessibility guidelines, that is standard for government websites, and which promotes accessible online education. And fourth one is RPWD Act, that is in 2016. It mandates ICT accessibility for disabled person. And there are so many challenges for implementation of for physically disabled person. The first one, we can see that expensive access tools limit access, and limited awareness and training, that is educators lack knowledge for tools, that is limited awareness and training. And many digital platforms are not fully accessible there, and ensuring inclusivity in e-learning platforms. And moving to the future directions and recommendation. First one is policy development, that is which ensures or which enforces accessibility standard in digital learning, and AI and machine learning advancement, and prioritizing accessibility in educational technology. And educators should be trained in assistive tools. These all are the directions and recommendations made. And moving to the conclusion, I would like to say that as the technology create equal educational opportunities, key tools include screen readers, speech to text, and AI solutions. And challenges also include that cost awareness and compatibility, and future require policy enforcement, innovation, and inclusive design, and which aim is to universally accessible education and lifelong learning. So, thank you.
Yes, Gopika, it was a very good observation or presentation on the digital accessibility for, especially in education for people with disability. Do you think that this assistive technology, the use of assistive technology, would also be a bane for the people with disability?
Ma'am,
Have you viewed this assistive technology from the other side? So you said like most of the points what you covered was regarding assistive technology, how it will be useful and helpful for the people with disabled, right? So from the pure other side, will it be a bane, or is there any other limitations, especially when it is used by disabled persons?
no limitation, because it convert digital text into braille for reading.
See, there can be some kind of, say, when we are using an assistive technology, what is more important today is about how to use it, right? So that having that proper training of using a particular equipment is also
Lack
very
of training
important,
is
right?
there. Lack of training is there, ma'am.
Uh-huh. Anything else?
And most of the people don't know how to use.
Yes.
And also training also, they don't know how to use.
Okay, apart from how to use, is there any other limitations? Is there any other drawback which a person who is differently abled may face when he's given a technology for him to use it? Say if you give a person who can't speak, and if you give him a machine that yes, through this machine you can speak, how he would may react? Have you viewed this particular thing from that particular angle?
Ma'am, many trainees do not have many digital platforms are not fully accessible for to how to use this braille or such instruments or such uh, there is a limited awareness is there for training, and educators lack knowledge of tools how to use and all, and limited e-learning platforms is there for how to use that tools.
No, you highlighted a sufficient number of online platforms about Google Scholar and many more. So that is there. But what I feel is like, when we introduce any technology and or give it in the hand of the person who is actually a differently or specially abled, so what it creates is a social stigma. Because today this is more important for us to focus on the social stigma, because many people may not accept it, because they may feel that it is something which is exposing their weakness, or maybe they feel that they are dependent on this particular technology, which may lead to a kind of reluctancy that they may not accept it. So that is very important. And when it comes to AI or assistive technology, sometimes it may not be designed according to a particular use. It may not adequately address the specific challenge. So this is also there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Let me move on to the next paper presenter. Janvi, just call
Yes,
the
ma'am.
next paper presenter.
Next is Dr. Subbalakshmi P. on the topic of a study on societal attitude towards person with disability and need to provide them with legal protection and opportunity to access education.
Thank you, madam. I hope I'm audible to you. Respected Dr. Professor Marti sir and Dr. Sri Devi madam. My topic is a study on societal attitude towards persons with disabilities and need to provide them with the legal protection and opportunity to access to education. Here, the person with the disabilities, they are likely like every other person, and they are also social beings. But difference is that they are differently able-bodied individuals, and others are physically normal. That's all. Disability only becomes a salient as well as they will understand that a disability is there or etc only because of other person's attitude, or the person who is bystander, he shows the attitude of maybe curious or maybe inaccessible building or maybe inappropriate questions etc because of these things even though they lead some normal life in their own accord, they feel yes it is there etc that is what we have to understand, and that is why concern for them should be there, and then they should be treated as how we are treating other persons too. Able-bodied persons, they should not express negative attitude towards people with disabilities, and there is normal duty on our part to support and boost their level of confidence to build their healthy society. To accomplish the obligations mentioned by the United Nations Organization, Persons with Disabilities Equal Opportunities Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act of 1995 is replaced by the Parliament of India by enacting legislation called Right of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. Mere laws cannot help to bring them to the mainstream of the society. People should develop knowledge as well as a kind of attitude, a positive attitude towards their problems and their challenges and difficulties likely they are facing in the society. Disabilities are of maybe different kinds, maybe physical disability, locomotor disability, leprosy kind, leprosy cured persons, cerebral palsy or muscular disorders, acid attack victims, maybe visual impairment, maybe blindness, low vision, hearing impairments, then intellectual disability, maybe specific learning disabilities, then autism spectrum disorders, mental behavior, even certain illness, chronic neurological conditions, multiple disorders, Parkinson disease, etc., etc. Maybe in blood disorders, etc. will be there. But persons with the disabilities, Equal Opportunities and Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act 1995 formulated to ensure that disabled persons are not neglected in this wide population, and to provide them equal opportunities, the Government of India has brought this particular act to provide them with education, employment, special insurance scheme, research and vocational training centers, rehabilitation of disabled persons, etc. These are the main objectives of that particular act. Government as well as local authorities, they can ensure to establish special schools, education in private establishments at affordable rates, accessibility for disabled persons residing in rural as well as remote areas, etc. Up to 18 years, from 6 to 18 years, children with the disabilities, they are entitled for free education in India. Non-governmental organizations, they are also contributing for the education as well as employment of persons with disabilities. They assist providing technical support, teaching aids, technical device, etc. Disability means not less than 40% of loss or disability as certified by the medical authority, we can say. The main provisions of the act, they are prevention and early detection of disability and educating them, providing employment, non-discrimination, affirmative actions, social security, research and manpower development. Under section 31, the Persons with Disabilities Act states that notwithstanding anything contained in the Rights of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009, means under the connected to the Constitution of India, every child with benchmark disability between the age of 6 to 18 years shall have a right to free education in neighborhood schools or maybe a special school of his or her choice. The right of persons with disabilities RPWD Act 2016 has certain objectives like ensure that all persons with disabilities can lead their lives with dignity, without discrimination and with the equal opportunities is a very important thing what we have to follow. The Act lays down specific provisions to uphold such rights. It incorporates the rights of persons with disabilities covered under United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD, to which India is a signatory. Before a couple of minutes ago, a lot of discussion was happening when after paper presentation. So I was very much curious about it. Legal rights of a person with disabilities, section 13, it states about appropriate government shall ensure that persons with disabilities enjoy equal rights on an equal basis with others in all aspects of life and have the right to equal recognition everywhere as other person has. Section 14 of this act also states a designated authority find that a person with a disability who had been provided adequate appropriate support is unable to legally binding decisions, to make legally binding decisions, then he may be provided further support of a limited guardian to take legally binding decisions on his behalf in consultation with such person in such manner as may be prescribed by the state government. Persons with disabilities require high support as per section 17 of this particular act. It speaks about the appropriate government shall designate one or more authorities to mobilize the community and create social awareness to support persons with disabilities in the exercise of their legal capacity. Section 16 requires appropriate government and local authority to ensure that all educational institutions funded or recognized by them provide inclusive education to the children with the disabilities. Is a very important because education is a stepping stone for the further employment or maybe whatever the matter happens in the later part of our life. So there is responsibility for the mainstream schools to ensure inclusive education, like admit children with disabilities without discrimination, provide education and opportunity for sports and recreation activities just like others, make buildings campus as well as other facilities for accessible to them, provide reasonable accommodation facility for them, and then provide necessary support individual as well as otherwise in environment that maximizes academic as well as the social development consistent with the goal of full inclusion. Ensure that education to a person who are blind or deaf or both imparted in the most appropriate language, mode and means of communication, detect specific learning disabilities in children at the earliest, and then take suitable pedagogical as well as other measures to overcome such problems, monitor participation progress in terms of attaining level as well as completion of education in respect of students with the disabilities. Just providing them support, providing them education is not sufficient. Whether they are well equipped with regard to the facilities provided, that is also the duty. Mere giving education is not at all a sufficient thing. That is what it says. Measures will be undertaken by the government to make inclusive education a reality under section 17 RPWD. Act requires the government as well as local authorities to conduct survey of school going children every 5 years to identify children with disabilities, because that will be after effect what is happening, that they have to look into, ascertaining their special needs and extent to which these are being met, provided that the first survey shall be conducted with the period of 2 years from the date of commencement of this act, then establish adequate number of teachers who can train them in a well manner, train and employ teachers, including teachers with a disability who are qualified in sign language, especially can say some braille kind of the language and also teachers trained in teaching children the intellectual disability, train professionals and staff to support inclusive education at all levels to school education. And then many other provisions are also laid down under section 17 of the act, which will truly help persons who are having certain challenges, and provide scholarships also for them to, in case if they are financially having some problems and all, it should be given so that they can be free, or they mentally they will become free to learn whatever facilities provided. Facility to scribe as well as exemption from second as well as third language courses, then promote research. They can also do research, and then we have seen a lot of people, we can't say that disabled, etc., etc. It's like shame on us to tell like that, because they are also having a not I can say not equal, more than that also capacity. I have seen people so in and around us, so we should have respect for them. That is the first thing what we have to do, and the second thing is all the facilities what is available that should be given to them. We should not escape from giving that particular facility. That is also very important thing. So that is why Constitution of India, rightly Marti sir was quoting, and Shri Devi madam was also quoting there. The Constitution of India is there, legislations are also there, but how implementation is taking place, or else if implementation is not properly done, it is our duty to boost that particular thing, so that they can also lead a very good life, and we can also spend a very good time with them in this particular society. That is my observation. Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shubha. It was indeed a very detailed research done on the act. Uh, um, Shubha, I have just a question on this particular act.
Okay, ma'am.
Do you think that having this particular act, or maybe amending through the need-based approach, do you think this act is having a holistic approach, especially providing protection for people with disabilities, or do you suggest that we should have still more laws and schemes to protect the rights and interests of disabled?
As far as legislations are concerned, ma'am, the earlier Act 1995, there were a certain lack, that is why they have amended it and they have replaced it, well, as per the international jurisprudence criteria. So that we can say at present what the legislation and the objectives, its own provisions, various sections, they are looking good for us. Means from the outskirt, we can find that it is fine. The thing is that implementation level, we have to make a study on implementation level, whether it is properly implemented or not is a very important what I feel, ma'am, because giving providing education, finding such people, such children from that age only, from 6 to 18 years, giving education, then again giving training to them, then appointment, school options, everything is like in a stepwise it is given in the act itself, but whether they are implemented in a proper level or not is a main apprehension what we can have, ma'am. That is what I feel.
So do you think that today, with the development of artificial intelligence, so this act
Yes.
would be sufficient and helpful for all the stakeholders in reaching the disabled people?
Whenever this AI, artificial intelligence is a recent development, but still in that also, it has with the techniques what the persons who are having this disability can use the other facilities in the same manner, almost in the same manner. AI can also be used by them. And even I have seen 2 or 3 students also, 2 or 3 when known persons, they are using this AI as well as the other facilities which are there. But in case if any question comes from there, if any points or if any difficulties are raised by them particularly, in that point of time we can find it like how we can resolve this to set it to new developments or AI or maybe any other further future developments. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಸೆಟ್ ಮಾಡುವುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುದು ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಾರೆ, in such case we can try best to cope up with the certain problems.
Okay, okay, Shubha. Thank you so much.
No, what
Thanks
are
to
the
meet you,
facilities
ma'am.
are available?
Sir?
No, what are the facilities are available in libraries to gain knowledge? So that's also one of the important topics should be addressed.
True,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah, because even the for example, in our we are from law background here in law college and all. If we get admitted to certain students, in such case we have to give them certain facilities. By the time we will come to like one which and all is required. For example, a wheelchair facility will be provided. Then the staircase they can't claim in such case situation. Physical disability, for that also to cope up with such things are done. Then for blind and deaf, for them they have their own like maybe braille kind or any other facility which they can use. We have to give them such facility in our library also, because the library is a place of study from where we can gain knowledge. There also we have to provide facility to them, sir.
Yes, that's a point from
There is a
the
history.
convergence.
There is a history, if rather I would say, in the 19th century. In fact, there was no existence of a library service for blind people. You
True,
know
sir,
the
true.
history. Okay, in the year 1868, the Boston Public Library acquired the collection of books, especially in an embossed format, and began library service to local residents. And number of libraries have been actually started their library services to persons with a disability in the United States of America. Okay, similarly, okay, there are as many as libraries which could be helpful to these people. So important among our Chicago Public Library 1894, the New York State Library 1895, and the Library of Congress in 1897, the Philadelphia Free Library of Congress 1899. So they have been actually keep actually helping these physically disabled people Even in our Manas Gangotri library, lots of facilities are actually given to the disabled people. Okay, some of the disabled people have got a PhD as well. Okay, they are running with administration, especially in our Department of Political Science and Public Administration. A blind is actually heading the department. You must be appreciated him, and he has
Very true.
become chairman of Board of Studies and BOE. All in all, he has been running. Perhaps you may have gone through him. Okay, in
Yes.
many national and international conferences as well. The only thing is that we have to give an opportunity to these people to gain knowledge. The story that libraries are the temples. So we have to understand that. Okay, through which you can gain knowledge.
Very true, sir.
Is about artificial intelligence. This is one thing. See, as long as you are just dealing with artificial intelligence,
Yes.
you should know the ethical point of view and moral point of view. That's very important, isn't it? Technology is useful. I agree with you, but there are some negative observations in connection to artificial intelligence, or machine learning, or deep learning, whatever you may call them as, isn't it? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, they are interchangeable and they are all actually interconnected. But as lawyers, we have to understand from ethical and moral point of view. That's very important. So their data should be protected. The privacy should be maintained. So as
Yes.
far as the constitutional checks and balances, is one thing I would like to share with you. However, technology is actually helping them to come up here in their life. That's very important from the point of understanding disabled people, not only in India, cutting across the world. So I appreciate technocrats and scientists who have helped them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Shubha. Please call the next paper presenter.
Yes, ma'am. On special request, Harish Anandan would like to present next. Breaking the Invisible Wall, How Grassroots Stories Shape Policies and Redefine Access to Knowledge.
Can I and am I
Yes, you are.
okay? Good my name is Harish Anandan from Central University of Kerala, and I'm a final year LLM student. My topic, which I was being adopted before going to that, rather than I will quote some quote by a Filipino activist. They see our wheelchairs, not our intellect, but when we of the access to design it, the walls are unrooted. These type of issues they have been faced by fixed on a code which I have been mentioned. My topic which I dealt with for the paper presentation is breaking invisible walls, how grassroots stories shape policy and redefine access to knowledge. I have been mentioned lots of grassroots stories from all over the world, and Brazil, Ukraine, India, and China, and Japan. On which I would like to mention with the call of how to address to everyone to my paper. I want to take you a journey toward the leads and to individuals who have been silenced by systematic indifference, cultural stigma, and bureaucrat inertia. My paper, by breaking invisible walls, explore how grassroots rules storytelling how can become a powerful tool for disseminating barriers to education and knowledge for person with a disability. It's not just about policy. It's all about living experience of people who have been refused in the invisible. Let me start with a story in 2017. Fatima, a mother from Nairobi, Kiambi slum, stood before the Kenya Parliament Education Committee. Her son, Abidi, has cerebral palsy, and for the year, schools turned him away. Lack of facility or teaching, who have been denied with the education. Once the Abi have been raised to his mother Fatima, don't know how to handle him. Fatima's voice terribly as he have been countered in the parliament. Ma'am, Miami is school. Miami and that claimed by the Fatima, who have been my son, who have been asked one with my squad that Mama, is school only for children who can walk? That was a question who have been raised in the question by the Fatima. Her testimony lasted 15 minutes, but its impact reproducible for the months. By 2018, Kenya has adopted inclusive education framework that mandate teachers training to the accessible infrastructure and penalties for exclusive. Fatima's story was not extraordinary. It's a simple, raw, and deeply human. And it's that's what made it revolutionary. Some revolutionary stories like this type of grassroots stories make the route more exclusive. This is a power of grassroots advocacy. It thrives on the alchemy of turning personal experience into policy blueprints. In the Brazil also, in the Lei Brasilia de Lucia 2015, a landmark law guaranteeing access to public space don't merge from parliamentary debate alone. It was urged on the street where wheelchairs users like some sort of activists calling protesters shared humanitarian unhumanitarian stories on. They are treated like a luggages on the buses of the public areas. Their protest diaries how have been taken by the authorities and the sovereign who have been need to be add on with the sovereign national museum and they captured the moments of the protest. You are is our shame. You are is our shame that have been quoted. In from that scenario, the Brazilian government who have been turned the what they are struggling from the base route, but policy alone is not enough. Law can be mandate ramps, but they can mandate empathy. In 2022, UNESCO study found that even in the region with strong disability laws, 70% of teachers feel unprepared to support students with learning disability. This gap between policy and practice is where a real battle lies. In that type of issues over there. My third storytelling is I would like to tell it as Maya in Grace, a deaf teacher trained educator in sign language pedagogy. That thanks to the Sign Language Act over to Miami 2020. Yet I read it on the article. Yet the five of the trainees left for the last year, but they have been unpaid with the stipends and overcrowded classroom turned question the policy. Grace have been questioned with the government authorities that policies plant seeds, but who give them water? That kind of challenges we are being raised. That's not only on the field of disability; it's all over the field of wherever the government applies their policies. But they need to be care more about the disability. They need to who need to give the disabled care. Who need necessity of careness. They need to consider about it. The challenges are even more pronounced on conflict zones and Ukraine scene also. Cultural provides the most stubborn barriers for centuries. Disabilities have been viewed through the lens of charity or tragedy. That the views which we have these normally grassroots people or the layman who have been viewed in the lens of disability people with the lens of charity or tragedy is a narrative that reduces individual to object a pity or inspiration. Media play a significant role in perpetuating these stereotypes. In India, Bollywood films, despite 78% of disability characters are non-speaking, and their stories revolving around cure or death. In Hollywood, inspiring stories have been also like that. A wheelchair use in Los Angeles shared how strangers film her at the gym without consent, saying, "If she can do it, I can no excuse." And these type of grassroots movements are flipping this script and the lots of changes all over the world. Providing first, we ensure the policy are so created with the disability individual not be drafted ministerials of UN. In 2023, reports recommend that 50% of policy draft teams from the include persons with disability or discouragement. And I would like to call with my my suggestion or the conclusion part with the strengthening co-creation in the policy. main policy main issue I will be recommend with that there will be a law, fundamental law, land of the law, constitution, and the special provisions. But what I suggest to recommend that because my paper I was mentioned with the grassroots stories, and my paper, my recommendation will be also like that. My recommendation: India must move beyond token consultation and ensure that persons with disability are actually involved in the drafting of implementing of policy. The Right of Person with Disability 2017 Act is a progressive step, but its implementation will remain uneven. The steps which I will recommend for that, for the three themes: and establishing of Disability Advisory Council at the national level, state level, district level, at least 50% of representation from the person with a disability and their caregivers or caretakers, because they know how the impact of their suffering, how they are being need to be cared. And that's why I mentioned for the establishment of Disability Advisory Council with adding of 50% of their representation and their loved ones. And the conduct grassroots consultation. I meant that grassroots consultation. While we were making in some sort of provision, he will take some general opinion or massive opinion by giving some email or by giving some public opinion in a public domain in gov.in or some government domain. But that's not exactly what they are asking for, but not exactly they are seeking for, but they are not they are expecting much more from the sovereign. Conducting grassroots consultation in the rural and urban area to identify, they deserve some more. I think they are not deserving that. They have the right to opt there. Conduct grassroots consultation in the rural and urban area to identify region-specific challenges. For example, wheelchair users in hilly region face difficult accessible issues than those in the plain, because I have been one example that in the I'm from Kerala. I would like to take it as an example from the Kozhikode in the Indian Institute of Technology. They have been some final year students have been taken one initiative, or they have been taken one assignment that how the hilly areas disability people who have been traveling to their schools, so how they have been traveling to schools. On the study, they will find that their mother, a father, or a accompanied one, their loved one, their cared one who is giving their support, because the two people need to engage for one idea or for the one vision in that type of thing. But they have been implemented one sort of assignment to 360 or 360 camera. 360 type of cameras, and with one wheelchair they have been initiated one sort of improvement for the disabled person. That's the use of technology from the deep learn, which we can my dignity have been mentioned that deep learning we can mention for some person who have been not been on the he must need to be a netizen. But those who are not been in a deep learn, how the mission can't be given deep learn and interlearn and deep deeping learn must need to be a calculator to machine learning. But what the technologies can be implemented to them is by implementing the grassroots consultation to them. And finally, my suggestion is to create a general feedback mechanism to ensure that policy are continuously redefined based on living experience. Because one basic example I can give it as, because I'm a law student, I'm a master law student who is a practicing advocate in High Court of Kerala. I have been I can mention that in BNS, our new criminal law, BNS have been amended, and secondly it has been passed by the bill. Like that, the second it must need like that. It must need to be taken. Our disabled persons have been also deserve some more sort of feedback mechanism to ensure the policies are continually redefined based on their, for example, based on their life conditions. These type of changes or grassroots mechanism only can change their life more better. I think so. That's how I'm concluding that.
Okay, Harish. That was indeed a very good research done on how it can be shaped through grassroots stories. And what I feel is like uh, today there's a huge gap between access to knowledge or access to education and people who are differently able. So my question is like, what do you suggest that how we can fill up this gap between the access to education and the people of the differently abled? How to fill in the gap? How to fill in the gap?
Okay, firstly, ma'am, I can call up my address to my institution, Central University of Kerala. But in Department of Law, which I am raising up, in there, I so it is there. It's not. It's comfortable for any disabled one or any normal. It's only for designed for normal person. Normal person. What we are telling in us, we have 2 legs, two eyes, and 2 hands. But it's not designed for the special person. Just like that, our teachers who is being shaping our future. The disabled person also deserves some sort of sorry if I can refer that. In my institution, it's a national institution. I'm a Kerala who know Malayalam, who know some sort of English, and my friends who have been from the Tamil Nadu and UP who have been unknown about Malayalam and who have been a little bit know about the English because they have been know about the Hindi type education system. By imposing them with the jargon English by the Kerala professors or assistant lecturers, how they can know their education importance, how they can know the education importance. That just like that, the type of teachers need basic training for the disabled education, because teachers are the base workers of our country, base workers who is shaping our students, to shaping our special students. The teachers' attitude need to be changed. The teachers are not by, they have been empathetically but empathetically they are supporting that, but they don't know how to care them. They don't know how to. They have the mindset to try to pop up with them, but they need to be trained. At least some refreshment training need to be given to the grassroots workers, who I call as teachers.
Yes, of course, even the central government, the Ministry of Education and Government of India. So they have also brought the schemes for providing inclusive education for children with special needs. Okay. So there's actually a financial assistance which is actually made available for special educators, because today what we require for access to education for people or children who are differently abled is we require assistance of special educators. So this has been brought under the Samagra or Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, what we actually see today by the central government. So that is actually a very good initiative which is actually being taken. Thank you, Harish. Thank you so much for your insightful observation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Who's next paper presenter?
Yes, ma'am. Next, we would have Mr. Mubarak Khan and Abdul Asif Mubarak on the topic of breaking barriers, advancing the rights of persons with disability to access knowledge through inclusive education.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Actually, my net is not working properly, so I'm using audio. I can't use video now. So kindly permit me to present it by audio itself. Yeah. My topic is breaking barriers, advancing the right of persons with disabilities to access to knowledge through inclusive education. To quote Liz Ferguson, accessibility is being able to get the building. Diversity is getting invited to the table. Inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is having a voice to be heard. Unquote. Now, education is very vital for the growth of the nation, as well as an individual. Education is considered as a sacred in ancient time in India, and teachers were given utmost respect. Education is mainly imparted through Vedic and Buddhist education system Sanskrit was the language used to impart the education system. In ancient India, education was imparted and passed on orally rather than in a written form. Since then, there were no means. Since there were no means of writing. The purpose of education was to build a personality, characteristic of a person, to teach them basic moral values. Education begins with the prehistory as adults trained young in their knowledge and the skills deemed necessary in the society. There is an estimated of 240 million children with disability worldwide. Like all future, like all children, they need quality education to develop their skills and realize their full potential. These are often overlooked in policy making, limiting their access to education and their ability to participate in social, economic, and political life. Worldwide, these children are among the most likely to be out of school. They face persistent barriers to education stemming from discrimination, stigma, and the routine failure of decision makers to incorporate disability in school services. Education in ancient India consisted of both physical development and learning. There was equal emphasis on healthy mind and healthy body. But the new education policy, which is brought in 2020, education is the greatest tool for achieving social justice and equality, which has implications for development of inclusive community and society at large. In order in order for the policy to translate to practice, educational barriers, facilities, and services for children with special needs (CWSN) must be addressed. The new education policy has infused aspects of disability inclusion through their policy document with a dedicated chapter on equitable and inclusive education, focusing on issues, challenges, and recommendations for bridging the gaps, reducing the disparities in access and participation of all the learners. The issues and recommendations for inclusion of underrepresented students groups, including children with disabilities, has become subsumed in the policy covered under the SEG, that is socio-economically disadvantaged groups, which is an umbrella term for covering gender identities, socio-cultural, socio-economic identities, geographical identities, as well as disabilities. Now, I would say what is inclusive, how far inclusive education is being understood. All the students being educated where they would be educated if they did not have a disability. That is in age appropriated general education classes for their neighborhood school, with the basic and necessary supports provided to the students, educators, and families so that all can be successful. Inclusive education is an ideology that promotes the elimination of any discrimination against persons with disabilities and ensures the equal treatment for all the people is given. Inclusive education is characteristics are special requirements for professional and personal training of teacher. Inclusive education means all the children in the same classroom, in the same schools. It means a real learning opportunities for groups who have traditionally been excluded. Not only but also includes speakers of minority languages too. In simple manner, it means that all the children attend and are welcomed by their neighborhood schools in age appropriate regular classes. We also support to learn, contribute, and participate in all aspects of their life. Inclusive education brings all students together in one classroom under one roof and community, regardless of their strength and weakness in any area, seeks to maximize the potential of all students. Simply, it's everyone's fundamental right to access education and not to be excluded from the rest. The inclusive education is a process of bringing of all children under one roof, despite of their differences. It is the opposite of exclusion. It emphasizes of bringing the able and disabled students together and provide them with equal opportunity and quality education. This kind of approach gives children a sense of belongingness towards the children of the classroom community. Inclusive education eradicates inferiority complex among children and focuses on overall personality development of the children. Moreover, it provides more effective environment rather than restrictive one to the disabled children, so that they can lead their life like a normal children. Inclusive education is a kind of concept under which disabled children and normal children together study in a normal class. Special assistance is provided to disabled children. Thus, inclusive education is a practical solution to the anti-segregation of children with disabilities. It is not a substitute for the exclusive. Inclusive education is a complement to specialized education. Sometimes very few physically challenged children can be admitted to an inclusive educational institution. Seriously handicapped children who take education in a specialized educational institution, after acquiring communication and other talents, they can get admitted in coordinated schools. And challenges to implement inclusive education in India. See, there are basically so many challenges in India to implement inclusive education. Number of disabled people are so large, their problems are so complex, available resources are so sacred, so scarce, and the social attitudes is so damaging. The road to achieve inclusive education is long and varied one, which challenges and the opportunities will challenges and opportunities will arise. India is a country having multilingual, multicultural, multi-religious country, and its people are stratified along stratified sharp socio-economic and caste lines. With the estimated of 1.210 million people, India is the world's second most populated country after China. It has 17% of global population and 20% of world population of out-of-school children. According to the official estimates from the Census of India, the Government of India, the number of people with disabilities in the country is 26 million. That is roughly 2.1% of the total population. However, United Nations of Child Relief Fund report in 2000 states that there are around 30 million children in India suffering from some or other form of disabilities live in developing countries. But 75% of people disabilities live in rural areas in India. The government has created numerous policies around special education since regular classrooms. The challenges could emanate from scarcity of adequate human and material resources, negative attitudes of teachers, community, non-disabled peers, and parents, and country's independence. There could be many challenges for educating children with disabilities. 10% of world's population lives with disability, and 80% of population lives with disabilities live in developing countries. But 75% with people with disability live in rural areas in India. Then the further problem is the assistance. There's no proper training given to the teachers to assist to the specially abled children, and the people. You can't expect all the children to be taught together because they might not meet the mental standards to be taught in the same school, and there are no there are no special teachers who can teach the children in the same school. To conclude, I would say government should make a policy or a teacher training program which would train teachers who can teach the people with smart, like have an inclusive education training where they can teach the children with like a lot of resources and a lot of options to be given, and like there should be oneness among the teacher, and they should find out the ways in which the people with special needs were to be taught. That's all, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Abdu. You gave a bird-eye view on advancing the right of persons with disabilities to access education, that is through inclusive education. And in the course of your paper, you have even highlighted about the barriers which are present, especially for giving an inclusive education. And my question is like, what do you suggest that how we can break these barriers of inclusive education?
I'm like, there's like, suppose if people in a class, like 2, 3 people are not that much strong, we may have extra classes to them, and we can take special classes to the teachers as well, to how to handle these children very calmly, or how to handle them with patience, and how to treat them that they are not, they are not to be sidelined, or how to make them feel that they are in the same classroom and they are same as the other students. you know, uh, uh, Psychologically, the teachers to be taught that they should see everyone together, and they should find out how to be taught to these differently able people, so that they come together with the rest of the world.
Okay, do you mean to say that it is only the duty of a teacher, or is it that even the technology would support us?
Ma'am, I would beg to differ. The technology won't support you that much as a teacher would do. Teacher would personally help you to understand the concept, or teacher would, give you the emotional support which the technology would lack.
Okay, that's good.
You cannot actually rely on the technology to support the people with inclusive education.
Yes, okay. Okay, Abdul, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll call upon the next paper presenter.
Yes, ma'am. Tasmi Biswas. Okay. Shivani Srivatsa and Mr. Aditya Khare.
I think even they are
Akshara
not there.
Nair. No, ma'am, they're not there. Akshara Nair, a study on the effect of National Education Policy 2020 on education rights of person with disability in India.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'll just share my PPT. Is my PPT visible, ma'am?
Yes, dear. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, dear. It is.
Oh.
It is.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to respected judges and my dear participants. I am Akshara from the IT School of Law. May I proceed, ma'am?
Mr. Ravi Kumar, please mute. Dr. Ravi Kumar. Yeah, you proceed here.
Okay, ma'am. My topic for presentation is a study on the effect of National Education Policy, or NEP 2020, on educational rights of children with disabilities in India. So the NEP, or the National Education Policy, it's a third educational policy which was introduced in India, and it has replaced the previous policy. That is the NEP policy of 1986, which was modified as Program of Action in 1992, with specific educational provisions for children with disabilities. And Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan was the chairman of the current policy, that is the 2020 policy. So this National Education Policy, it emphasizes that education is the single greatest tool for achieving social justice and equality. And this has got implications for the development of an inclusive community and the society at large. And for children with developmental delays or disabilities, the recognition of the RPWD Act, that is the first right-based model act of 2016, and it was signed and it was introduced after India became a signatory to the UN CRPD, or the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, in the year 2008, and it also replaced the 1995 Act. Now coming to the structure of National Policy of Education. So the old educational structure has been replaced with the new structure. That is, the old educational structure was 10+2, and whereas now it has been changed. That is, the stages has been changed. And the stages include the first one being the foundational stage. So it is the first and most crucial stage of child education, and it begins from 3 to 8 years of age. And under this stage, there is a provision called as ECCE. That is the provision of early childhood care and education, which supports children with developmental delays. That is for the very early age group, that is from 3 to 8 years of age. And the second stage is the preparatory stage, and it covers older children, that is children before the adolescent age, that is children who are aged from 9 to 11 years. And this particular stage, that is a preparatory stage, it is the focus is activity based learning. Followed by that, the next stage is the middle stage. It covers children aged between 12 to 14 years, and here that is the adolescent age group, and here the main focus is on the skill development, that is basic coding and vocational education, that will be introduced with 10-day internship program. And finally we have the secondary stage, and it is the last stage which covers the children coming in the secondary age group, that is 15 to 18 years, and it covers students from 9th to 12th classes. And in the last stage there is no hard separation amongst the humanities, commerce and science streams. And for children with disabilities, that is the highlights. These are the highlights of the national policy on education. First one is the equitable and inclusive education. It focuses on giving quality as well as inclusive education. Inclusive education means not excluding children with disabilities, that is either accommodating them based upon their disability along with their non-disabled counterparts in regular schools, or based upon their disability, that is if they're falling within the benchmark disability, that is 40% and above, making provisions for them in special schools, and also including home-based programs, that is for children with severe to profound disabilities. And this particular NPE is based upon the human rights approach, and it covers all the SEDGs. SEDGs are the socio-economically disadvantaged groups, and it's an umbrella term which covers gender identities, that is transgenders, then people coming from the minority groups, that is socio-cultural minority groups, as well as socio-economic identities, geographical identities, which includes refugees, as well as persons with disabilities. And it aims at creating an inclusive culture and achieving an inclusive society where nobody is excluded, and that includes children with disabilities as well. And then moving on to Samagra Shiksha scheme. So it's a centrally sponsored scheme of Samagra Shiksha, and the Samagra Shiksha scheme, it aims at ensuring equity, that is quality education, and inclusion at all levels of school education. And it was a scheme introduced by Ministry of Education for school education, which caters from pre-primary to senior secondary classes. And the scheme aims to universalize access to school education, and it is supported by all the states and union territories when it comes to implementing the recommendations of the NEP, or the National Education Policy. Now coming to the provisions for children with disabilities. The first provision is inclusive education. It is defined as a system of education where students with or without disabilities learn together. And this inclusive education has also been included in the RTE Act, or the Right to Education Act, under the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan scheme. So the RTE Act was introduced after the 2006 judgment that was laid down in MC Mehta versus Union of India, which mandated mandatory school education for children aged between 6 to 14 years of age. And in that was included the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, where every child should be given free and compulsory education irrespective of whether they're disabled or not. And that forms part of the inclusive education, which is also mentioned under the National Education Policy of 2020. Second comes accessibility. Accessibility means removal of all sort of barriers, which includes infrastructural barriers, that is making the buildings or infrastructure disability friendly, such as introduction of ramps, then engraving braille on the lift buttons, and also having audio so that people with visual impairment can also get to know what is happening around them. Then attitudinal barriers, that is removing the attitude of, or the mind, changing the attitude of or the mindset of educators as well as students in the regular schools. Then learning barriers, that is introducing specially tailor-made syllabuses for children with disabilities, and also by including braille books as well as syllabus for children with visual impairment. Then comes community involvement, that is involving the community, which includes building school communities, developing school clusters for better physical and infrastructural access and support. Then comes learning and participation, that is participation of all the SEDGs in schooling process, which includes children with disabilities, making learning meaningful age appropriate as well as level appropriate, that is adopting the universal design for learning. And finally, the learning outcomes, that is based upon individual capacities as well as the needs and preferences by using different infrastructural and assessment competency based on continuous assessment. Then finally, recruitment of special educators with cross disability training, that is by recruiting special educators in regular schools who have been given cross disability training and incorporating disability awareness within the teacher education. And this also includes recruitment of sign language interpreters. Like in a lot of schools, sign language interpreters are also being recruited so that children who have hearing impairment, they are able to understand what is being taught in the classes. Then teachers and Anganwadi teachers receiving 6 months to 1 year training in special education, that is to train the Anganwadi teachers as well in order to cater to the needs of children with special needs. Then training and sensitization of all school teachers to cater the needs of students with disabilities. So these were the provisions for children with disabilities that was introduced in the 2020 National Education Policy. Then the National Education Policy has also laid down choice of schools for children with disabilities. That is, 3 choices have been given to the children with disabilities in order to choose their schools. That is, either they can opt for regular schools. So that includes both public schools as well as private schools with reservation of seats for children with disabilities. That is, the 5% education reservation is given for children with disabilities in schools, that is the right to education. So if they're coming below 40%, that is if they're not coming within the category of benchmark disability, or if they're having a milder form of disability, which includes learning disability such as dyslexia or dyscalculia, they can opt for regular schools. And also certain types of physical disabilities which are not that severe, they can go for regular schools. That is, they can study with their non-disabled counterparts, which would be beneficial for them in the long run, as they will be interacting with their peers of their age group as well. Then coming to special schools. So the option of special schools can be opted by students who are coming under the category of benchmark disability, that is above 40% of disability. For them, they can opt for special schools. And finally, we have home-based program. That is, home-based education has also been introduced as per the National Policy of Education of 2020. And this can be opted by children who are coming within the benchmark disability, and also children who have severe to profound disabilities. That is, children who are having health issues, or children who are non-ambulatory, or who cannot move, who are suffering from physical barriers such as muscular dystrophy, or if they're having osteogenesis imperfecta, which makes it more difficult for them to move or which makes them more fragile, they can opt for the third category, that is the home-based education. So these were the choices that are introduced under the NPE, that is the National Education Policy of 2020, when it comes to the choice of schools for children with disabilities. Now coming to the discussion part, that is inclusion and special schools and home-based training. So according to the RPWD Act of 2016, which was a right-based model as opposed to the previous Act of 1995, which was a charity model, the NEP, or the National Education Policy, includes special schools as an option for children with benchmark disabilities. Like I explained in my previous slide, the special schools is given as an option and not as a mandate. And children with profound disabilities and associated health conditions, like I once again mentioned in my previous slide, they can go for home-based program. And though NPE provides free and compulsory education for children with benchmark disabilities by the provision of special schools and home training, it also creates parallel segregated school systems for a few instead of a common schooling system for all. So it also creates a parallel and segregated school system. That is, no child is being left out, even though parallel schools are being introduced or created by the National Education Policy, yet no child is being left out. That is, the inclusion is still being fulfilled. Now coming to the recommendation part. So in India, special schools fall under the ambit of Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare and not under the Ministry of Education. So all other schools and education institutions are falling under the Ministry of Education, but special schools are falling under the Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare. So my recommendation is that special schools too need to be brought under the purview of Ministry of Education. The second recommendation that I would like to give is home-based training needs to be given by special educators, and special provisions for social interactions with peers that must be provided. So home-based training need to be given by special educators. Then also there should be provisions where such children can interact with peers of their same age group, as the buddy system is done in countries like the US, where every child with a disability or every special child is allotted a buddy or a friend of their same age group, so that they can interact with that particular friend and which can help in their development in the long run. So that also should be introduced. And then if NPE provisions in accordance with RPWD Act are implemented, then more children with disability will get inclusive education. So if the provisions of National Educational Policy are in accordance with RPWD Act, that is, if it's included in the Act, then in such a case, more children with disabilities can get access to inclusive education. Then finally, I would like to conclude. So in India, right to education is a fundamental right, and that judgment was given after the MC Mehta's case under Article 21A. And every child has a right to get all basic human rights, and that also includes right to education. And children with disabilities have the same right as that of their neurotypical counterparts or children without disabilities. And the implementation of the NPE 2020 and its provisions, it has to be monitored. That is, at state level as well as central level, there should be bodies in order to monitor the implementation, in order to check whether it's being monitored in urban as well as the rural areas. And the issues and recommendations for inclusion of underrepresented students groups, including students with disabilities, and the SEDGs, that is the socio-economically disadvantaged groups. So that also should be ensured. That is, they are being included along with their neurotypical or non-disabled counterparts. That has to be ensured. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Akshara, that was indeed a very good presentation on the new education policy, especially focusing on the rights of persons with disabilities.
Yes, ma'am.
Akshara, just tell me, like, how whether this particular NEP, which actually focus on, as you cited, about home-based learning,
Yes,
whether
ma'am.
it is also applicable for children who are autistic.
Yes, ma'am. Like, since children with autism is a spectrum. ASD, that is autism spectrum disorder, it's a spectrum. So there are two ends. There are children who are high functioning, and there are children who are low functioning, and there are children who are moderate, who come within the middle part of the spectrum. So depending upon the spectrum, like children who are high functioning, that is the Asperger's, people with Asperger's, they can attend the regular schools. Whereas children who are coming from moderate too can attend, but children who are coming in the low end of the spectrum, that is, who are non-verbal, who cannot speak, who have severe sensory issues, that is, change of environment can disturb them, it can have a sensory overload on them, because any kind of change is a difficulty, is a problem for them. So and those who are suffering from health ailments, like a lot of children with autism, they get diagnosed at a later point of time, followed by a brain fever such as meningitis or encephalitis, which can also lead to health issues at a later point of time, such as seizures and all of that. So such children who are coming in the severe end of the spectrum, for them, home-based program can be used.
I mean, don't you think that there would be a challenge, especially in providing this home-based education?
Ma'am, the challenge is basically
it's not only
like I
about,
mentioned,
as you cited, it's not only about training a particular teacher to teach them. It is not only the thing. There are other challenges, especially which also calls for the convergence, say like infrastructure or maybe any other equipment.
Yes, ma'am. The main challenge is that the house has to be made disability friendly for that child. Like before starting any program, the special educator would explain to the parents to make the house disability friendly. That is to make it accessible to the child and to set a routine. Like children with autism, they have a routine. For example, the Velcro system. That is for each and every cards are pasted for every activity, including studies. A card is pasted. So once it is completed, the card can be pulled out of the Velcro and put it in a box. So that has to be made. That is, the setup has to be made disability friendly for them, so that they follow a routine. So routine has to be fixed for them. That is one challenge. Once that is met, it can be carried forward. But that has to be followed. It cannot be broken in between. That is the only challenge.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, Akshara, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Please call upon the next paper presenter.
Yes, ma'am. Pooja SP and Amal S. Mohan on breaking barriers, the transformative role of digital tools in e-learning and advancing accessibility for persons with disabilities.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, Pooja, start.
Okay, good afternoon to all. My name is Pooja and my co-author is Amalas Mohan. We are LLM students of Central University of Kerala, and I'm going to present a paper on the topic Breaking Barriers, the Transformative Role of Digital Tools and E-Learning in Advancing Accessibility for Persons with Disabilities. That is my topic. So, the integration of digital tools and e-learning has significantly improved accessibility for individuals with disabilities by breaking down barriers in education, employment, and in the case of social participation also. So in the case here, assistive technologies such as screen readers, speech to text software, then A-based transformating platforms, they all give engagement and independence to this disabled children. So e-learning platforms are designed in such a way that accessibility can provide for the learning experience and to accommodate these diverse needs of these cognitive disabled children. So emerging technologies such as AI, virtual reality, they will expand the opportunity of these children by creating an immersive and interactive environment section for them. So even though there are so many advancements and things, but challenges will be there due to the digital divide, lack of infrastructure, then some accessibility policies, and the large scale adoption of this will be very it cannot be easily done. Then when we talk about the role of assistive technologies, some of them will be the screen readers like JAWS, NVDA that allow the usually allow the visually impaired users to navigate the digital content. Then other will be there are Google voice typing, Dragon naturally speaking assist individuals in the case of mobility impairment. They can hassily they can easily access digital spaces through this. Then another thing will be AI powered tools like Microsoft is giving the immersive reader that will be for personalized that will be also used for personalized learning in the case of these disabled persons. Then I think the first country to be successfully adopting this was Finland. They have taken so many things and improvements have made in their academic performance with the in the case of students with cognitive disabilities. That is with regard to the some of the AI tools. Then when we talk about the transformative role of e-learning, it has an revolutionized approach that has given in the education for the persons with disabilities, because they have given flexible and inclusive learning environment through this. So so in the case of here learning management systems like Moodle, then Blackboard prioritize keyboard accessibility. Likewise, that will also enhance the help the students with mobility impairments. Then sign language interpretation tools are there. That is given by so many service providers like Microsoft and all. Then in the case of Open University in UK, they have given they are the one of the exemplary example. They have because they have set standards in the case of digital inclusivity by giving a successful rate of satisfaction for the students in the case of disabilities. Then in the case of technology like VR and AR, that is virtual reality and all, they will be very important and very good for in the case of autism students. That is autism spectrum disorder. They will this type of technology, virtual reality and AR, that will support them in the case for their communication, their social interaction and all. So I think researcher also said that they have given such a that such a good effective support to the these students. Then there are so many applications in the case like in the case of massive open online courses are also there. We can call it MOOCs. That is also there. Other things are AI driven personalized learning paths are there. Then voice activated programs are there. So these are all play a major role in developing these students. Then in the case of when we look into the analysis of digital accessibility policies that are taken by different countries, we can see that so many policies are implemented, but I think enforcement is the major thing to be done. There are so many policies, but it is not properly enforced. In the case of Nations, they have Americans with Disabilities Act is there. Then in the case of European Union Acts, also there is Accessibility Act. India also have Rights of Persons with Disability Act. These are all aligned with the global standards, but it's all need to be enforced properly with the proper guidelines of the international standards. That's with regard to the policies across the globe. Then, in the case, one of the crucial cases with U.S. National Federation of the Blind versus Target Corporation. This is a precedent case. In this case, the court said that online platforms associated with physical business to be accessible to these disabled persons. Likewise, in India also, in the case of Nibun Malhotra also, the Delhi High Court held that the ticket booking system should be accessible to the disabled persons. Likewise, so many other cases are also there for ensuring digital accessibility for these disabled persons. Then my recommendations would be for bridging the gaps will be that the enforcement should be properly done. Then it should begin from the grassroots level, and AI-driven accessibility solutions should be done. Then the guidelines of the international standards should be followed. Then teachers should be properly trained. Likewise, it should be, if we adopt in such a way, then we can develop these students. Then as a conclusion, I can say that digital tools and e-learning have the potential to create an inclusive world for these individuals also. These individuals, that is the individuals with disabilities. So for more progress and to remove this digital divide, the enforcement should be done, awareness of accessibility should be done for all these. Consider effort should be made by the policymakers, these technology developers, educators. Then also the disability organizations should also put hands together. So that's with my presentation. Thank you.
Yes, Pooja, that was a very good presentation on the role of digital tools and technology, especially making the persons with disability to have access to education. Uh, Regarding, you were highlighting about the web accessibility, right? So web accessibility today, it is something about the set of standards, what actually the persons who access the website has to follow, right? So we call it as web content accessibility guidelines. So,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So why do you think that this web accessibility is important?
Because it gives a standardized guidelines for any law to be made. Because in the case of India, there are laws, but that is not, I think it is not proper in the way amendments should be made. Then more inclusivity should be made, more in the case of policymakers, they have not made much emphasis on the case of regarding the disability.
Okay, do you think that it is only for the persons who are disabled, or is it for all?
It's the standards.
Yeah, the accessibility or the set of standards, whatever, it is only for the people of designed only for the people of disability, or is it for all?
It's for all.
Okay. Okay, Pooja, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Who's the next paper presenter?
Yes, ma'am. Next we have Lily Devi. Lily Devi. G. Arada Rajan and Sumi S. Mr. Ashray Chakraborty, Jesus Law College, and R.K. Pooja, student of Jesus Law College.
Can I start the presentation? I'll share the PPT.
Yes, Pooja, you may.
I hope the PPT is seen.
Yes, it is visible.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is a privilege to be here today to discuss on the topic transferring knowledge, accessibility, role of AI assistant in empowering persons with disabilities. The author of the paper is Mr. Ashish Chakrabarti, the assistant professor of law from JSS Law College. I am R.K. Pooja from BA LLB, JSS Law College. To start with, let's try something. Let's all close our eyes for 10 seconds and imagine navigating the internet without sight. How would we read emails, study, or browse or social media? Now imagine AI reading every word to you, helping you see the digital world. That's the power of accessibility. To start with, how AI assistant can change and create a shift to transform knowledge availability for persons with disabilities. Firstly, coming to the introduction, from centuries we have access to knowledge that has been restricted to a group of people, that is having physical, sensory, cognitive barriers. However, this rapid advancement of AI, we are witnessing a shift, one that is empowering persons with disabilities like never before. That is, the existing barriers of knowledge accessibility is lack of accessible formats such as braille or audio based material for visually impairments. For hearing impairments, there is limited access to real time captions and sign language interpretations. And thirdly, cognitive disabilities. There are complex language and academic and professional texts making comprehension difficult for certain groups of people. And lastly, coming to the physical disabilities, it is difficult in handling traditional books, keyboards, or digital interfaces. While accessibility laws such as Right of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 in India have pushed for inclusive resources, AI has the potential to accelerate these efforts. How AI can revolutionize knowledge accessibilities. Firstly, coming to AI powered text to speech and speech to text. That is, tools like screen readers, AI powered virtual tools assistants enable visually impaired individuals to read digital content effortlessly. Are my slides changing?
No, ma, it is not changing. You come to the PowerPoint mode. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Coming to AI powered solutions in this, firstly, AI powered text to speech and speech to text. That is, tools like screen readers, AI powered virtual assistants enable visually impaired individuals to read digital content effortlessly. So, mainly, the Google Live Transcribe has provided time captioning for hearing impaired individuals. That is, they have created speech to text tools. These are freely available for the individuals. And secondly, coming to the automated sign language translation. This is a system like Sign All, Google Sign Language, where an interpreter is bridging the communication gap between speech into sign language animations, which makes it easier for them to analyze what is happening when it is spoken. Thirdly, coming to simplified language processing. Here, when it comes to cognitive disabilities, it is very difficult for them to comprehend. So, immersive reader, which has an option to even change the speed of the language which is getting spoken. So, it makes it easier for those individuals with certain disabilities to simplify such complex text. Fourthly, coming to smart assistive devices, that is, where AI devices like OrCam, My Eye Assistant, visually impaired individuals in reading printed and digital text can use these in real time to identify the text. Now, when we have books which are already printed, such AI device can be used by certain individuals to read those printed or texts which are digital, which can make them easier to have a day-to-day connection to the world. Fifthly, coming to the AI in education and research, there are many academic tutors who are online and offline learning systems which have adapted content to suit individuals' learning needs and also to their education. Coming to what are the challenges and ethical considerations which are needed. Firstly, coming to bias AI models. The thing about AI models are they're set to a specific language, but when it comes to regional use, we have many different languages which are used in India. So having a diverse accessibility need has to be taken care of. Secondly, data privacy and security concern. This is a often extensive data collection which is made when it comes to AI. These raising concerns over privacy is one issue which has to be taken care of. Affordability and digital divide. Here, AI driven assistive technologies should be made in such a cost efficient and affordable, which makes it accessible to all groups of the people in the society. Fourthly, over reliance on AI without human intervention. So it is for the policy making, they have to ensure that AI used ethically and there is need of human intervention, that everybody are taught how to use AI in daily life. Moving forward to how to harness AI's full potential in transforming knowledge for differently able, that is to promote AI policies for inclusivity. The thing is, government, if they make projects with the companies of AI which is upcoming, they can have policies which can promote such various accessibility tools which can help a lot of people, and also increase their investment in AI research, which is going to be the future of today's world. Lastly, coming to the conclusion, AI is not about innovation, it's about inclusion. Let's ensure that as technology evolves, no one is left behind, because when knowledge becomes accessible to all, the future becomes limitless. Thank you.
Yes, Pooja, that was a very short and a brief uh, highlights which you made upon the transforming knowledge accessibility and the role of AI. Uh, Currently, do we have any such policies which actually focus upon providing AI assistance for differently able persons?
Indeed, yes, ma'am. There are few policies which the government is aiming for AI for all. This is a project where they are trying to align with ethical usage. That is, UNESCO and Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology have hosted a stakeholder consideration with AI to aim to craft AI policies in India. This was recently made on 16th November 2024 in New Delhi.
Hmm. Okay. So with regard to providing AI or whatever the schemes or whatever the policy, which is, I mean, the initiative is taken, as you pointed out in your slide, that it actually poses a privacy challenge, right? And also it is about the affordability. So how best we can actually bring out of this, or how can we handle this particular kind of situation, especially whenever there is a violation of privacy, and especially when there is a problem with respect to the affordability? What do you suggest?
Indeed, ma'am. The question answer for this question is there is a digital protection data protection rules which is going to be passed in 2025 by the government. In this, they are trying to provide necessary implementation for protecting data, and also to speak upon how they can make it affordable to the students. The thing is, government, when it makes a partnership with various companies which are mostly like startups in India which are promoting AI, it gives both empowerment to the entrepreneurs and also the coming world where they together can come and build a better society.
Okay, okay, Pooja, thank you so much. Jami, is
Thank
there
you.
any other people presenters left?
Yes, excuse me, ma'am. Myself, Sumi SS. I'm with Ardra. And last time when you were calling my name, I can't speak due to some
Yes,
network
Sumi.
issues.
Yes, yes, please proceed. You
Am I
can start.
audible?
Yes, you are.
Is it my camera on? Because I can't see it.
No, just proceed. It's okay.
Shift.
Yes.
We, oh no. Is my camera on?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So good afternoon, dear faculties. Dear faculties, myself Sumi and my co-author is Arthur Rajan, and we are here to. I'm trying to give my presentation share of PPT. Excuse me, ma'am. Okay. Is it sharing?
No, it is not.
Okay, I will go with this.
Just go ahead. Go ahead with the presentation. Just go ahead.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody, and myself Sumi. I'm the co-author, and the author was Arthur Rajan. So we are the students of Central University of Tiruvalla, and I'm here to give a vast speech on the topic of right to persons with disability to access knowledge. So as everybody knows, we are having our rights, and same as that, the right of every person with disability to access knowledge is a fundamental aspect of equality and inclusion. Everyone, regardless of their ability, should have equal access to education. So our CRPD, that is United Nations Convention on the Rights of Person with Disability, in a section of 24 is clearly stating about the rights that are that should be given to the disabled people or the differently able people. From Article 24.1 to 24.4, it is defining everything about this rights for the differently able people. And in 24.1, it is about the inclusive education. 24.2 is about the reasonable accommodation, and 24.3 is about the training mainly for the teachers, and 4 is about the learning technologies which is to be given to this differently abled students, that is braille script, hearing aids, and language, sign language be taught, etc. So the to ensure equal access, it is essential for the government also and other education institutions and other organizations to take actions. As I mentioned, that CRPD, that is the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, stress that individuals with disability should have the right to inclusive education knowledge with reasonable accommodation, like specialized searching method, technologies, etc. And as Jaya ma'am had in the first speech itself, she coined some of the case laws such as Brown versus Board of Education 1954 in USA, and in BS of as a state of Kerala in 2018. Here, the High Court of Kerala said that there should be no discrimination for the differently abled children while giving them to the mainstream education. And and also in some of the latest, one more thing to be added, that is um, that is in the year the Act of Right to Person with Disability, which is the Act of 2016, which got amendment in late 2024. That is another latest news with regard to the right of person with disability. And untouchable is now treated as a very big offense in case of disability people, which is coming under Article 40. And also while I'm concluding, I just like to mention that in addition to the legal framework, raising public awareness about the rights of people with the disabilities to access knowledge is also crucial. So the society and so we need, the people should give a very good environment to these kinds of people for giving them more education and support to society by making some measures. And also we should contribute with the success of when the knowledge is available to all of them, it can emphasize disabled people to come move forward and also contribute to have a very better society. So this is all about my presentation.
Yes, Sumi, thank you so much. It was a very brief overview of right of disabled persons to access knowledge. And Sumi, do you think that there is a uniformity in the laws and approach of all the states at international level, especially for providing the access to education and knowledge for persons with disability?
No, in foreign countries, they are giving so much more importance, since not just like in India. In foreign countries, I just like a coins. Mm, uh, they're giving special scholarships, accessible services, and inclusion programs, and also other techniques. Also, they're giving while comparing with India, and uh, the well, other techniques would universities with the University of California is also having deliberate disabilities support students, and there is specialized for disability, and the disability research institutions are the University of that is something I while comparing with University of other, and uh, while looking into India.
Okay, what do you think that we should have? Any specific reform which we should have in
More
India?
more amendments are needed. Latest 2016 amendment got revised into one of the biggest, and while other central government should stand up more differently abled people, and some, yeah, that.
No, I couldn't follow you clearly. You were actually oftenly muted.
Oh,
Well, that's
I
okay.
was telling more
Well, that's
legislative
okay.
amendments.
No. So it's okay. Maybe having some issues. Jami, is there any other people presenters left?
Okay.
I've called upon most of the participants and some of them are not present.
Okay.
So
shall
if
we
you
conclude?
permit, I shall.
Yes, Ma, you can just go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I can proceed with the vote of thanks.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So
As
before
we
that,
continue.
just second, Janvi, before that, let me conclude with my ending notes. So we had various paper presenters focusing upon the rights of disabled people, especially with regard to access to knowledge or education concern. So overall in this session, we had 12 paper presenters who actually focused on different areas of access to knowledge, especially in providing inclusive education and access to information and communication technology with AI-powered tools and accessible formats, which are today is most needed for people who are specially abled. And also, the papers also focused upon the reasonable accommodation which should be provided for the differently abled persons, especially in educational institutions with different cultural backgrounds and other activities. So I congratulate all the paper presenters for a very effective research on this particular topic. And also, I thank my mentor, my guide, Professor Maruti sir. He's here with us. Thank you, sir, for giving me this particular opportunity. And I also thank Saraswati Law College, Chitradurga, who actually considered me to be a right person to connect with this platform. And also a very great job done by the Voice of Differently Able Person, a virtual NGO online. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this particular opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Janavi Suresh.
Yes, sir.
1 minute. Okay.
Yes.
Before concluding remarks, I would like to share with you. In fact, we had a wonderful program on disability to access knowledge. At the fag end of this international webinar, I am highly privileged and honored to extend my heartfelt gratitudes to the learners who have contributed a lot to shape this international webinar. In fact, I thank Syed Kudrat, President of Institute of Legal and Policy Research, Kadriya Hasimi from Afghanistan, Professor Sudha Devi, Dr. Indi Goda, who is the organizing secretary of this international webinar, and his team for their constant and dedicated support in bringing this webinar in a grand success, I believe. Equally, I take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our paper presenters and participants for their active participation as well. Of course, no matter, we have gone through the specific issues and challenges based on the law or something else, however it could be. And you know the fact that discriminations, violations are common throughout the history of mankind. We just look into Mahabharata, wherein you can find discriminations as well. So blind people were not actually allowed to access some property. However, they ruled us, even in Mahabharata as well, as you have already been known. It's not an exaggeration to state. When the majority of the people are living, minority has to be suffered. That is there in the history of mankind. However, a minority shall not be, in fact, neglected in the society as a whole. All are well educated, no matter. And you know the fact that educated people are highly dangerous to the society. It's not an exaggeration. However, it stimulates me to share few words about these crises as well. So educated people should be helpful to the disabled as well. This is what one could understand on the basis of words expressed by various philosophical foundations as well. Look into Confucius quotations on disability. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you go and don't stop. This is what Confucius, who has outspoken on disability. Similarly, Robert M. Hensel, he says, there is no greater disability in society than inability to see a person. In a way, Stephen Hawking, who could say, concentrate on abilities, your disability does not hinder, and don't dwell on the things it interferes with. Be disabled physically, not in spirit. It means that you shall not be forgotten on your spirit as well. On the other hand, Robert M. Hansel also acknowledged that I don't have a disability, I have a different ability. So this is what one could understand on the basis of these factors. In fact, all the experts and paper presenters who have outspoken on many aspects of the law or whatever it could be. Of course, no matter, everything is based on the humanity and dictate of public conscience shall be called and looked into. This one thing. On the other hand, knowledge is power. So based on knowledge, we can do something to the society as a whole. Of course, no matter when you are just dealing with rights of disabilities, of course, you have to understand Hoffieldian philosophy, where there is a right, there is a duty, where there is a duty, there is a liability. This is one thing. On the other hand, if X happens, then Y ought to happen. If X commits a crime, he should be prosecuted. This is one thing we have. On the other hand, as long as you are dealing with the rights, you shall not be forgotten remedies as well. So, uh, as you have already been understood on the basis of Article 32 of the Constitution of India, right to remedy that itself is a fundamental right. So, without it, other rights cannot be enjoyable, and it's a primordial right, as you have already been known, without which other rights cannot be enjoyable. In this way, all the paper presenters who have outspoken on disability, impairment, and handicap, and such other things. Of course, some of the paper presenters who have acknowledged the inclusive policies. So these people shall not be excluded. This is what very recently University Grants Commission came out with new approaches to give more importance to the Center for Inclusive Policy than exclusive policy as such. So therefore, you have to give more importance to inclusive policy, give an education to these people, so through which you can work on some of the problems of these disabled people, not only in India, cutting across the world as well. So on the other hand, see, inferiority complex of these people should be overcome. You have to respect others. I mean to say that you have to give more importance to these disabled people in the world at large. Otherwise, they will suspect you in otherwise manner. This is one thing I would like to share before you. So, keeping in view of all these observations, in fact, many people have contributed a lot to shape this international webinar as well. At the later part, I thank Janavi Suresh and Dr. Sri Devi Krishna for their constant support in actually shaping this international webinar as well. With these few aspects, I take this opportunity to thank all of you for giving me an opportunity to share a few words at the end of this yeah, I mean to say international webinar as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Over to Suresh.
Thank you. As we conclude this enriching paper presentation session of the International Webinar on Rights of Persons with Disability to Access Knowledge, I take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made the session a success. First and foremost, our sincere thanks to Dr. Sridevi Krishna, Assistant Professor of Law at Vidyavardhaka Law College, Mysuru, for chairing the session with such expertise and insight. Your guidance ensured a productive and engaging discussion, and we truly appreciate your valuable contribution, ma'am. A special note of appreciation to Mr. Mohammed Razik Wasik, of the CEO of Voice of Differently Abled Person, for hosting this event alongside Saraswati Law College, Chitradurga. Your collaborative effort in organizing this platform for meaningful discussion on accessibility and inclusivity are truly commendable. A heartfelt thanks to Dr. Maruti T.R., Professor of International Law at University of Mysuru, for his esteemed presence and valuable insights, which have added great depth to our discussion today. Lastly, a warm thank you to all the participants, scholars, researchers, attendees who contributed to this session with their insightful presentations and active engagement. Your dedication to this important cause is truly inspiring. With that, we conclude this session and we look forward to continuing these critical conversations on building a more inclusive and accessible world. Thank you.
Thank you, Janvi. All the very best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.